How can they force only the DDC? How can DDC work without the his assistant chiefs and chief assistant chiefs? Mr. Speaker, this is where we do the budget for all these ministries, including the Ministry of Interior. It is the time for this House, instead of us asking these questions every time, it is us now to have the budget in place so that these officers can be down there so that they can assist the public on the issue even of security. Like now, for example, in my constituency, people, they are facing a lot of security because we don't have also officers on the ground. But having them there, we can minimize even this issue of insecurity in those areas. Mr. Speaker, it is an issue which is supposed to be addressed, and we help the public to get services closer to them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Tongoyo. Tongoyo, you can see the number of joyriders, and there are many more. Johanna, when he finishes, just whisper to him what you want. He's next to you.
Honorable Speaker, as you actually rightly put it, the interest is so much.
Yes.
And I want to respond as follows, Honorable Speaker. I want to respond to give a comprehensive response first week when we come from recess. But at the same time, Honorable Speaker, I want just to confirm that we did actually discuss with the Honorable Member, Honorable Bonaya, and I did confirm that when we were having the BPS, we had the ministry, the CS, and we actually, the committee actually interrogated on the same. And I want actually for record to confirm, Honorable Speaker, as we wait for the comprehensive response from the ministry, Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm for the House, as it is, the ministry had since confirmed that we have got 24 sub-counties which are ready for operationalization. We have got about 88 divisions. We have got about 318 locations. We have got 674 sub-locations. And in this supplementary budget, we had availed about 284 million for the same. But Honorable Speaker, I'm sure if you will have given more time, you will have gotten a lot of riders on the same. And the issue has been always money, resources. This House appropriate resources, Honorable Speaker. Yesterday, when we were sitting in the liaison committee, I was really pleading to these members to give something like $500 million shilling. Then we can able to operationalize all the gazetted units. And at the same time, we had actually already put across a very strict recommendation so that the ministry should be able to have a very clear policy henceforth on creation of new gazettement of new units. So, Honorable Speaker, I know we are still in the process of even approving the supplementary budget. If this House see it fit, give the ministry some money, $500 million shilling, plus the 284, we can operationalize majority of your units. And I submit, Honorable Speaker. And but let's give me money. We can able to operationalize as many as possible. Yes.
Well, you'll still have to bring a written response in 3 weeks. Before I call Joshua Kandie, allow me, members, to acknowledge in the Speaker's Gallery Oldakes Secondary School from Narok West, Narok, Kianyaga High School, Gishugu, Kirinyaga. Honorable members, in the tradition of the House, you welcome your visitors. Kibudha Girls High School from Kangema, Muranga. AJC Chebisas Girls from Aldai, Nandi. Iruma Girls High School from Mara, Tarakaniti. Young Aspiring Leaders Association from Nambale, Busia. I've been asked by the member for Aldai to welcome the school from her constituency. On behalf of the House, welcome all the visitors.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to welcome the girls. You say the school is actually AIC Chebisas from Aldai constituency, as I also welcome the other students from the other schools. Today we are down here with the red seats and they're up there watching us. We want to tell them that they work very hard, they work smart, because tomorrow either one of them could be seated where we are seated here today. So we want to encourage them and tell them that they need to work hard and work smart in school. Welcome to Nairobi. Welcome to the Parliament of Kenya.
Member for Kishugu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me join Honorable Member for Aldai in welcoming all the students who are visiting Parliament this afternoon, and in particular, Kianyaga High School, which is within my constituency. And Honorable Speaker, Kianyaga High School has been shining in many years and performing exemplary well at the national music festivals. And it's one of the schools that has also produced very eminent and prominent leaders in this country, including Honorable GK, who was a student at Kianyaga High School. So without belaboring the point, let me tell you, Kianyaga and all the other students, that education is key. Continue doing well, both academically and in extracurricular activities, and the future is bright for all of you. Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker.
Tongoyo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want also to join the rest of my colleagues and yourself to welcome all the students who have visited this house, August House, to see firsthand the proceedings in this house. And I know, Honorable Speaker, in particular, I want also to welcome the Olderkesi, which is from my constituency. For record, this is a school which comes from the remotest part of the county. And in the just ended year, they had a mini score of about 8.02, which was the best in the county. And it is really commendable. And I want to welcome all of them. This is their future leaders amongst them. And I want to wish them all the best. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Joshua Kandie, Baringo Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Committee on Education regarding shortage of teachers in Baringo Central constituency. Honorable Speaker, a teacher shortfall in a school presents several challenges, including increased workload for existing teachers, inconsistent student learning experiences, difficult meeting diverse student needs, large class sizes, potential for curriculum gaps, reduced quality of instruction, and difficulties in maintaining a positive learning environment, all of which can significantly impact student performance and overall school operations. Recent reports indicate a shortfall of teachers across all educational levels in Baringo Central constituency. Many schools in the constituency remain severely understaffed, affecting the delivery of quality education. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of Departmental Committee on Education on the measures that the Ministry of Education has put in place to ensure schools have adequate teachers to meet the shortfall, especially in Baringo Central constituency. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kandie. Meli, 3 weeks.
Yes, I will respond to it in the next 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Speaker. Thank you.
Doris Donya. Doris Donya.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request for a statement regarding the payment of annual bonuses to the tea farmers. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 42-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock regarding the payment of annual bonuses to tea farmers. Honorable Speaker, tea farming is a major economic activity in Kenya, contributing significantly to the country's export earnings and providing livelihoods for millions of Kenyans. However, there have been growing concerns and complaints from tea farmers regarding the disparity in the payment of bonuses by factories in various regions. Tea farmers in some regions, such as Kisii County, Nyamira County, and parts of Rift Valley, receive significantly lower bonuses compared to their counterparts in other regions, despite similar input and production levels. This disparity, which is against Kenya Tea Development Agency, that is KTDA dividend payout policy, has caused concerns about fairness, transparency, and equity in the payment system among farmers. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Agriculture and Livestock to appraise the House on the following: the criteria used to determine the rates of annual bonuses paid to tea farmers across the different regions and factories in Kenya, the reasons behind the significant variations in bonus payment to tea farmers in the country, the measures the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development through the relevant agencies such as Tea Board of Kenya and the Kenya Tea Development Agency is taking to ensure that all farmers receive fair, uniform, and transparent bonuses based on their production levels. And lastly, the timeline within which the ministry will address the disparity to ensure that tea farmers across the country are treated fairly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Donya. Chair, Agriculture. Majority Leader informed the Chair, Agriculture to bring us a response in 3 weeks. John Kagusha.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Request for statement regarding acute shortage of blood testing kit donations in the country. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44, 2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Health regarding the acute shortage of blood testing kits in the country. Honorable Speaker, in the recent past, the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service, KNBTS, has been facing an acute shortage of essential testing kits used for blood donation, including laboratory reagents and blood bags and blood bag kits for testing and storing donated blood. The lack of essential kits has led to wastage of donated blood, a very critical resource. The crisis, which has led to the shortage of supply of screened blood in the country, if not resolved, could lead to increased cases of death of patients in need of blood transfusion. I dare say, Honorable Speaker, the issue of blood bank depletion is a national security concern. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Department Committee on Health on the following. 1, report on the measures that the government has put in place to avert a crisis and ensure there are adequate essential testing kits to enable screening of blood donated across the country. 2, what immediate measures is the government taking to ensure uninterrupted provision of screened blood for transfusion to patients, especially those in current need? 3, the long-term measures being put in place to mitigate the risk and ensure constant supply of essential medical testing kits. And 4, measures to adequately facilitate the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service to carry out its mandate uninterrupted. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Kagusha. Chair, Health. Majority Leader, a response. Majority Leader. Oh, yes, Bukoze.
I'm still the chair until tomorrow.
Yes.
But I'll be the ranking member in that committee.
Yes.
So we can give a response in 3 weeks' time when Parliament resumes from recess.
Thank you, Honorable Bukoze. Next order. No, sorry. Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker. Yes, hold on, Deputy Speaker. Yes.
Honorable Speaker,
Yes,
I tend to disagree a little with the Honorable Chair on the number of weeks that he has given. Since this is a very sensitive issue, an issue of health, Honorable Speaker, by the time we are done with 3 weeks, we'll have lost so many patients in the country. Honorable Speaker, I propose that he gives the response as early as this Friday, Honorable Speaker, if you allow.
From what he has said, Honorable Kagusha, he sees as being the chairman of that committee tomorrow. He says tomorrow. And the committee has to elect a chairman or a chair. And we are going on recess on Friday after the morning sitting. So you'll just have to bear with us. And I direct that a response be brought on day 1 after the recess. The recess is only 2 weeks. We can bear with that. Are you okay with that?
Honorable Speaker, I think because the committee is a going concern, the incoming chair can take up the matter immediately he is elected tomorrow, so that we ensure that we put a bit of pressure as a parliament to executive to ensure that members of this nation are accessing blood services because of the sensitivity of the issue, Honorable Speaker.
No problem, Honorable Pukose, whoever you'll elect chair, ask, yes, Pukose?
Honorable Speaker, I know the issue that is being raised by Honorable Kagusha is critical, but I will indulge him that he allows the transition, the smooth transition, so that we are able to get the answers and give him a satisfactory answer. Because if we are to give him an answer by Friday, I know that he will still complain that that is not satisfactory.
Yes.
And I want to ask the member that he be patient, and in 3 weeks' time, we'll give him a satisfactory answer.
Thank you. 3 weeks. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 259D, I wish to make a statement on the remarkable achievements of the Kenya's national women's sevens rugby team, popularly known as the Lionesses, in the recently concluded first and second round of the World Sevens Rugby HSBC Challenger Series, which were held in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa on the 1st and 2nd of March 2025. Honorable Speaker, for many years, lovers of rugby have known the men's rugby team as one that has brought honor and glory to the country in rugby. It is therefore impressive that the Kenya women's rugby team has been steadily rising to stardom and also bringing sporting glory to the country, as demonstrated in Cape Town during the just concluded World Sevens Rugby HSBC Challenger Series. In the first round final, Kenya triumphed over Argentina with a hard-fought 17-12 victory. Further, in the second round final, Kenya delivered a dominant performance, overwhelming hosts of South Africa with a convincing 17-0 win. Notably, this heroic performance marks the first time ever in history that our Lionesses have claimed victory in a Rugby Challenger Series and won 2 consecutive tournaments. Honorable Speaker, this is truly an exceptional performance by our women's rugby team. It's a result of hard work, incredible resilience, determination, and skill. Their achievements are even more commendable considering the numerous challenges that our women's rugby team continues to face, including financial constraints, resource limitations, limited visibility. And as you know, Honorable Speaker, they visited Bunge and we were able to provide for them food for a year. And those are some of the obstacles that can potentially hinder the sport growth and advancement. The Lionesses have shown unwavering dedication by overcoming these to excel at a global stage. Honorable Speaker, As we commend our women rugby team for its spectacular performance, it is important to note that in the world of sports, women often face unique challenges and barriers, including unequal opportunities, gender-based discrimination, and inadequate access to healthcare services. Therefore, as parliamentarians, we have a constitutional duty and a responsibility to address these issues head-on and ensure that our girls are empowered to thrive in their chosen sports disciplines without fear of discrimination or prejudice. In this regard, I wish to thank the stakeholders such as Safaricom PLC, who have already come out strongly to support our lionesses in overcoming some of these hindrances. I urge also more organizations to consider supporting our women's rugby team and other disciplines that feature female sports persons. Honorable Speaker, to our lionesses, I say this: continue to shine brightly on the rugby field, inspire the next generation of sports women, and never forget your worth and value as women. You are a role model and champions of change, and your contributions to our national prides are truly invaluable. Once again, I say hongera kwenyu na endeleeni kukaza mshipi. Asante lionesses. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, David Speaker. We join you in congratulating them as well. Next order. Yes, Donya, what's the point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand on Standing Order 173. There is an accident which has happened to women in this Kenya. And this is a horrible accident.
Accident?
Yes, a serious one. A
Where?
serious accident on the Committee of Transport, whereby we have 15 members and there is only one lady. That is an accident, Mr. Speaker. A big one, according to Standing Order 173. One lady, you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, 14 men seated against one woman. They cannot even deliberate. And we applied for this position. So you want to tell us women cannot manage transport committees, yet we are the ones who walk miles to the markets, to the rivers, and then what are you telling us? When we go to social protection, you've put all the women there, then you want us to approve the NADICO report. The men in this house, we need justice. This committee needs to be disbanded, Mr. Speaker. Women's voices should be respected. Yeah? That's why even they are allocating women reps who are serving 4 to 10 constituencies, same allocation of operations as a single member of parliament, Mr. Speaker. This should stop. Women must be respected. We are the ones who breastfeed. We bring life to this world. Mr. Speaker, it is very wrong. We protest. We don't like it. We want balance. We want equity, equity, equity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I hear you. Next. I hear you, Donya.
Order number 8, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2025, first reading.
Yeah, hold on, clerk. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, Mr. Speaker, we need to take note of the issue that has been raised by Honorable Doris. And in the reorganization of the committees with the majority leader, we have to take note of that, Mr. Speaker, so that more women serve in the Transport Committee. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, there's an international event, Mr. Speaker, that's happening in New York in this week, Mr. Speaker, of women. Mr. Speaker, when men issues are being discussed, women are also present. I don't know why the delegation that was sent by Parliament to New York, Mr. Speaker, only consists of female gender, Mr. Speaker. Why did we not have MPs also of male to go and discuss women issues, Mr. Speaker? There is also an anomaly, Mr. Speaker, on that issue. There's a serious accident that's taking place also in New York, Mr. Speaker, where only women, our women colleagues are only meeting, Mr. Speaker, without any single member of male gender, Mr. Speaker. That's also a very serious accident in New York, Mr. Speaker, that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Clerk, before you call the next order, allow me. And Donya, the constitution of committees is done by your leaders. One is sitting in front of you, to whom you are preaching the accident. The other is sitting across the floor. Take your complaints to them so that you can be able to address them. Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, I'm just giving a point of information to Honorable Junet to let him know that what's happening in New York is called positive discrimination. Yes.
Yes, Jematia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the same note, on order paper, okay, standing order 173, on what Donya said, it is also a replica in Committee of Finance, Mr. Speaker. The same thing, and when you talk about CSW is a meeting that is done for women agendas and women affairs, but this is a committee that deals with resources, deals with issues, policies of government, and it does not mean that women can be isolated because it is a gender, and I mean men cannot.
Yes, Janet.
No, but you know, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Order, Jematia. Address the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, we have acknowledged the anomalies in the committees, and we have to address them, Mr. Speaker. The committees must have gender parity. But, Mr. Speaker, also what's happening in New York, men are stakeholders. What women are discussing there affects us, Mr. Speaker. We must be present in the New York, Mr. Speaker, because we are stakeholders also on issues of women. They affect us, Mr. Speaker. What you are going there and discussing, you are going to implement it when we are present where we are, Mr. Speaker. So we are stakeholders. You must engage us, especially fathers to girls like me, Mr. Speaker. I must know the agenda of women in New York, Mr. Speaker. I must know.
Order, no more agenda passions on the floor. I want to acknowledge the presence of Kirirwa Junior School from Imendi Central, Meru, in the public gallery, and Koelel Forces Academy, Gilgil, Nakuru, in the Speaker's gallery. On my behalf and on your behalf, we welcome the students and their teachers to the House of Parliament. Next order.
Order number 8, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2025, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Constitution of Kenya. Order number 9, motion, report on the 2025 budget policy statement, question to be put.
Next order. Order number 9. Sorry, I was... Take your seat first. Members on their feet, take your seats. DK, take your seat. Order, Leader and Canaan, take your seats. Honorable members, I'll now put the question at order number 9, which is that this House adopts the report of the Liaison Committee on the Budget Policy Statement, BPS, for the financial year 2025-26, and a compendium of departmental committee reports on the 2025 BPS laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, 11th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Standing Order 2329 and 10A, approves the Budget Policy Statement, BPS, for the financial year 2025-26. B, makes the following financial resolutions with respect to the BPS: that the national government budget ceiling be approved at 2,523,774,081,480. of which the executive 2,437,536,081,480, of which Office of the Attorney General 8,652,200,000, Parliament 49,488,200,000, Judiciary 26,749,800,000. 2, that the allocation of county government equitable share be approved at Kenya shillings 405 billion 069 million 420 and 197. That consistent with the latest audited and approved revenue for financial year 2020-21, amounting to Kenya shillings 1,570 billion 562 million 945 and 14 shillings. The allocation to the equalization fund be set at 7 billion 852 million 814,725, that the arrears of the equalization fund be set at 2,747,185,275, that the allocation for the county government additional allocations be approved at 69,802,409,623, as per the third schedule, which shall form the basis for the county government additional allocations bill for the financial year 2025-26, that the allocation for the public participation initiatives be approved at Kenya shillings 3 billion. C, resolved that the first and second schedules form the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2025-2026 budget estimates. D, resolves that once approved by the House, these recommendations shall form the basis for the financial year 2025-2026 budget estimates. E, resolves that consistent with the resolution of the House on the 2025 medium-term debt strategy, the fiscal deficit is maintained at 4.3% of the GDP. F, orders that the first schedule to the order paper forms the basis for the ceilings for the financial year 2025-26 budget estimates. G, makes policy resolutions contained in the second schedule to the order paper non-financial recommendations relating to the budget policy statement for the financial year 2025-26, and H, makes the necessary adjustments to the schedules. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 10, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2025, second reading. Mover to reply.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to reply to the County Government Additional Allocations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2025. And first, to begin by thanking all the members who contributed to the debate on this bill. Honorable Speaker, as I said in moving, and as many members did observe during debate on this bill, this is a second attempt on the Additional County Allocations Bill after the failed attempt to pass this legislation in the last session of 2024. Honorable Speaker, as many members did allude to, the RMLF funds that were in the bill are not in this published bill. Honorable Speaker, for very good reasons, and that's why we are pleading on the Senate and the Council of Governors to see the logic in allowing this bill to progress as it is, so that our county governments are able to access the tens of billions of additional money that is going to our county governments and to offer services, especially in critical areas like water and sanitation, healthcare, and even to an extent in urban development, especially in the area of sewerage and road infrastructure. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, mine is just to improve on them. I have seen attempts already to try and water down this bill by having another one published in the Senate, Honorable Speaker. But I would really urge them, since this is a money bill, to allow this one to progress into the Senate and allow governors to access money that will help our constituents and the area ward representatives. Honorable Speaker, I was shocked yesterday or the day before. I was watching a clip on social media where an MCA, I think from Honorable Mburu Kahangara's constituency in Lari, is shedding tears in front of the governor, pleading for resources to be allocated to her ward to at least maintain roads that are impassable. And she was shedding tears, pleading with the governor that they cannot even transport bodies when there's a funeral in the ward because of the state of roads. And this is the dire state of roads, not in Kiambu County, but across the country. And I know a few governors may want the world to believe. And in fact, I was told the governor of Kiambu was alleging that it's the National Assembly that is holding 10 billion shillings for roads maintenance, which is very far from the truth. It is the Council of Governors, through the case that is bound to be determined tomorrow on the 12th of March, that has held to 10 billion shillings that should be helping the Kenya Rural Roads Authority to rehabilitate roads. And KERA does also assist governors when they maintain some of the roads in the rural areas, some of which may definitely be the burden of those governors to maintain them. But because KERA is there, it helps. And I know the other notion, Honorable Speaker, that they have attempted to drive is that these funds are going to members of parliament. Again, far from the truth. Members of parliament do not manage any of these funds. They go to the regional offices of KERA and KURA, and that is where they manage the resources. That is where they do the procurement from. And it is KERA and KURA engineers who superintend over the construction and maintenance of those roads in our constituencies, in wards, and of course in counties, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, even as we sympathize with these MCAs who have had to shed tears on behalf of the people they represent, we must plead with the Council of Governors to allow the nation to move forward on this matter of additional county allocations. Honorable Speaker, many urban areas, and I have seen a number of adverts done by KURA in maintenance of roads in Nairobi, but in many urban areas, they were benefiting immensely from KUSIP and KISIP funds. All these funds are in this bill. Many counties are benefiting from healthcare funds, even with the loss of the global funds from USAID and other donors. There is additional money from other donors in grants. Some not even loans, some are grants, but which counties cannot access because this bill has not become an act of parliament. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I really want to plead with our colleagues in the Senate, when this bill is transmitted to them, to hasten its processing and allow governors to access this money so that they may help our constituents. And with that, I beg to reply.
Take your seat, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I now put the question at order number 10, which is that County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2025, be now read a second time. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the additional allocations to county governments for the financial year 2024-2025, the responsibilities of national government and county governments pursuant to such allocation and for connected purposes.
Thank you. Take your seat for a minute. Honorable members, I have been requested by the member for Nambale that I acknowledge the group from his constituency before they came to the public gallery. And this is Young Aspiring Leaders Association from Nambale, Busia. I give you 1 minute to acknowledge their presence.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity to welcome the young aspiring leaders from Nambale constituency in this August House. Mr. Speaker, this is a group of young people who have decided to come together with a common goal of aspiring on how to offer leadership in future. As they say, Mr. Speaker, youth are the future leaders and drivers of innovation expected to drive economic growth of a nation. And if they don't move closer to other leaders so that they can learn how leadership is carried out, they may not understand the difficulties and duty that are expected to be performed as a leader. And Mr. Speaker, I wish to commend this particular group of young aspiring leaders because last year in December, they participated in organizing sports activities within Nambale constituency and also encouraged the other youths by advocating against drug use and also did community work. So Mr. Speaker, and fellow members, allow me to welcome them in this particular parliament and encourage them to ensure that they always think creatively and develop solutions that can drive progress in various fields. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, at order number 11, Majority Leader, I'm advised that the schedule to order number 11 is very long and still being prepared. And on that score, if it is agreeable with you, we go to order number 12. And when we are ready with the schedules, then we go back to order number 11. Is that okay? Does that sit well with you, Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, so long as soon as the clerk's table is able to share the schedules, but I was thinking probably they should have just published them on the gadgets and we access them from there.
Can you post them on the...
You just post them on the gadget.
These are time-bound legislations.
Yes.
So call out order number 11.
Order number 11, motion, consideration of the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-2025.
Chairman Liaison Committee, David Speaker. We're at order number 11.
Apologies, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-2025 laid on the table of this House on Wednesday, 12th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and Standing Order 239, that 1, approves the supplementary estimates 2 for the financial year 2024-2025 as indicated in the schedules to the report, and 2, resolves that the schedules form the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2025, and 3, orders that the Speaker do now leave the chair to facilitate the consideration of the said budget estimates with respect to each vote and program in the Committee of Supply as contemplated under Standing Order 240, which is consideration of supplementary estimates in the Committee of Supply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Who is seconding? Who is seconding you? Go on record. Give her the mic. Hold on, Bukose.
And Honorable Speaker, I call upon Honorable Pukose, who's a member of the committee, to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable Ruku, take your seat. Donya, don't get an accident. Take your seat. Honorable members, I now propose the question at order number 11, which is that this House adopts the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-25, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 12th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 239, 1, approves the supplementary estimates 2 for financial year 2024-25 as indicated in the schedules to the order paper. 2, resolves that the schedules form the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2025. And 3, orders that the Speaker do now leave the chair to facilitate the consideration of the said budget estimates with respect to each vote and program in the Committee of Supply as contemplated under Standing Order 240, consideration of supplementary estimates in the Committee of Supply. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Oh my. I jumped the gun. The clerk tells me I should have allowed the debate. Yes, but why were you saying aye without? I'm sorry, I was proposing the question. Let me rewind. Sorry. No, you cannot praise that. I now propose the question and retract and remove from the Hansard the transaction immediately preceding this. That this House adopts the report of the Liaison Committee on its consideration of the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2024-25 laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 12th March 2025, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution, Section 39 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and Standing Order 239, 1, approves the supplementary estimates 2 of financial year 2024-25 as indicated in the schedules to the report. 2, resolves that the schedules form the basis for the introduction of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2025. And 3, orders that the Speaker do now leave the chair, and I suspect that's what made me put the question, to facilitate the consideration of the said budget estimates with respect to each vote and program in the Committee of Supply as contemplated under Standing Order 240, consideration of supplementary estimates in the Committee of Supply. Yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, rise to support this motion on the second.
As Majority Leader speaks, I want to believe that those on the screen are queuing for this debate. If you are not, log out so that we follow the list on the screen. Yes, Makalimul, what's the point of order?
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I don't know whether I'm right, but has even this report been moved and seconded before we debate it? Because I thought the committee should have moved the report.
It was moved by the Deputy Speaker, who is the chair of the Liaison Committee, and seconded by the Honorable Distinguished Member for Endebess.
This afternoon?
A few minutes ago.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, it's
I
okay.
notice you are busy reading something.
No. You know, the thing is, anyway, let me not question the moving and the seconding, but let me just continue.
What is the problem?
You know, Honorable Speaker, what I thought was such an important report, earlier you did indicate to us that even the schedule is not here. I thought the mover should have taken a bit of time to educate the House in terms of what are the highlights of this supplementary budget, what are the recommendations of the liaison committee, just as read the budget policy statement. Honorable Speaker, in the morning, we were debating the budget policy statement with very good moving and seconding, where the issues were highlighted and seconded. Now this one, that's why I'm saying I don't want to question the moving. But I thought for such an important report, it would have been important that we get the highlights in terms of what is changing, Honorable Speaker, in terms of total figures, and then we'll be able to
Honorable
debate.
Makalimul, as far as the Speaker is concerned, motion has been moved and seconded. Get ready to debate it. Yes. Majority Leader, go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was saying, Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this motion for consideration of the second supplementary estimates for this financial year as ably moved by the Deputy Speaker and seconded by the Honorable Pokose. I know the Honorable Makali Mulu, being an economist, would have wanted more details, but I believe he was also very busy reading the same report. That's why he did not hear the Deputy Speaker and the Honorable Pokose move and second. But Honorable Speaker, this second supplementary comes in the backdrop of a period where the nation, as I said earlier when we were discussing the budget policy statement, our economy is stabilizing and increasingly becoming better than the position that we were in. True, Honorable Speaker, it comes in the backdrop of a situation where we found ourselves in with a loss of almost 6 months without a finance bill following the events of June last year and the eventual rejection of the finance bill. Honorable Speaker, many people may take it for granted that there was no impact on our budget process by the events of June 2024. But Kenyans across the country can bear witness that there was a real impact of the disruptions that came with the rejection of the finance bill in 2024. Many Kenyans around the country have been agitating for rehabilitation of roads that have had no money to rehabilitate. You have seen many actors in the labor movement, right from doctors, teachers, professionals in the teaching fraternity, those in our universities, agitating for implementation of collective bargaining agreements, which were supposed to be funded out of the monies or revenues that were to be raised by the finance bill of 2024. But, Honorable Speaker, allow me to take this opportunity to thank the House and thank the many Kenyans who in October last year joined the Finance and National Planning Committee during public participation to reconsider many of the proposals that were there in the finance bill. And therefore, we may need to understand that this supplementary tool comes in that backdrop of reduced revenues out of the events of June 2024, the belated mobilization of revenues because we did not have a finance bill to mobilize resources, as was expected by the 1st of July 2024. It wasn't until the end of December, because the bills that we passed on the 4th of December commenced to mobilize revenues from the 27th of December. And therefore, we have only mobilized resources for about 2 months, the whole of January and now February. This is only the 2.5 month when we have had the tax measures that we put mobilizing resources. And it is in the backdrop of that, Honorable Speaker, that the National Treasury has had to review the budget of the financial year 2024-2025 so that they're in tandem with the revenues and the reality of the time, because the revenues that were projected at the time we were doing the budget last year were projected with having in mind that we'd have a finance bill that would collect revenues from the 1st of July to the 30th of June this year. But as the case may be, We have only, as I said, been able to collect revenues from January to date. And therefore, you may have, we have now to review the revenue projections. And with the revision of revenue projections, we also have to review the expenditure projections, Honorable Speaker. And I'm glad the National Treasury has factored in all this in the revision of the expenditure and in an effort to continue with the fiscal consolidation that I was speaking about earlier in the morning, to ensure that we close this financial year with a supplementary budget that is as close to reality as possible, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the proposed reallocations and additional allocations that are contained in this report and the schedules that are being printed and which members will be able to access from the tablets shortly, part of the gainers, Honorable Speaker, is the security sector. And again, Honorable Speaker, is also worth noting that the National Police Service has been allocated an additional 7.5 billion, 5 billion of which is shortfalls in insurance costs, and 2.5 billion to support the Haiti peacekeeping mission, Honorable Speaker, and in addition, also other resources to ensure that we continue to secure our country. Honorable Speaker, you know, I heard many people recently fault the policy proposal to allow Kenyans from all corners of the country to be able to access ID cards fairly and in an equitable way without discrimination. And some of the resources you see here, Honorable Speaker, going to the National Intelligence Service is to ensure that security measures in the country are enhanced so that even as you issue out identity cards to Kenyans, we make sure that it is only Kenyans who are accessing our identity cards. Honorable Speaker, there has been also a problem of pending bills. And our economy has slowed down largely because many people, many business people across the country have bills that they delivered goods and services to the government, the national government and our county governments, and have not been paid. And part of the culprits is the Ministry of Defense. And I can see, Honorable Speaker, in this supplementary budget, the Ministry of Defense has an additional 6 billion shillings, which is going towards settlement of pending bills. And I do hope that the Principal Secretary and the accounting officers in the Ministry of Defense will be able to settle, especially the small, micro and MSMEs who have delivered goods and services to the Ministry of Defense, many of who suffer and some are closing down their businesses because they are not being paid. And I want to plead with them to prioritize the small people before they go to the very big suppliers who may have a little bit more muscle with the banks. Honorable Speaker, as I said, we have had issues with collective bargaining agreements. With the Teacher Service Commission, you've had teachers complaining about the health services that they are getting through the scheme that they have. And we have an additional 18 billion shillings that are going to the Teacher Service Commission, again to cater for insurance shortfalls, teacher promotion and personnel emoluments, shortfalls that were there at the TSC. And therefore, those teachers who are not able to be promoted because of budget shortfalls can now smile all the way to TSC as they seek their promotions. To Honorable Speaker, the State Department of University Education is a major beneficiary. You can see some 16 billion shillings going to the university education, to, among other things, 4.2 billion to implement the university's collective bargaining agreement, the CBA. As I said, you have seen UASU and other university dons even coming to petition Parliament at the gates of Parliament and demonstrating in town, agitating for implementation of the CBA agreement. Therefore, there is that 4.2 billion shillings to ensure that the State Department for University Education honors the CBA agreement that they entered into. There are also upward revisions that mostly relate to A&A. And Honorable Speaker, it's important to note because, again, many people have criticized the digitization of government services through eCitizen. If you skim through the schedules and the committee's report, you see a lot of revisions of A&A, appropriations in aid. And these to a total, my colleague is reminding me, almost 19 billion. These are resources that have not been factored in the budget, but are now realizable and this has come out of the digitization of government services through eCitizen. And through this digitization, Honorable Speaker, many institutions of government, many agencies of government, ministries and departments are now able to get more resources in A&A. And this is the upward mobility, you say, of A&A in the State Department of Universities and others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, again, in healthcare, Kenyatta National Hospital is getting additional resources. Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, MTRH, and I don't want to get into the figures, and KEMSA, Honorable Speaker. And this again speaks to the need, Honorable Speaker, of ensuring that both our national referral hospitals are adequately resourced to be able to offer services to Kenyans when they need them, and especially under the Social Health Insurance Fund, or SHA. Honorable Speaker, there is an additional 3 billion shillings that is going for the Emergency, Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund, 1.5 billion shillings, stipend for healthcare professional interns, and 600 million for operationalizing the primary healthcare networks. Honorable Speaker, this speaks to a great extent to the issues that you remember during the members' retreat in Naivasha, when the Social Health Insurance Authority appeared before us in Naivasha, and you did ask the Committee on Health to sit and look into the issues that are bedeviling the implementation of SHA. Honorable Speaker, part of the issues and the challenges that were identified is the low funding that went into the Primary Healthcare Fund and the Emergency, Chronic and Critical Illnesses Fund. Honorable Speaker, it's important for Kenyans to appreciate that the more members who enlist onto SHA and make contributions, the more efficient and effective SHA will become in terms of being able to cater for needs of their customers or needs of patients who walk into hospitals. For instance, Honorable Speaker, the Primary Healthcare Fund is meant to ensure that any Kenyan who is registered under SHA or Taifa Care, if they walk into a level 1, level 2, level 3 hospital, they see a doctor, they get a prescription, they get treated, and they go home without being asked for a coin. So long as that primary healthcare facility, whether it is a private healthcare facility or a public healthcare facility, is enlisted under the Social Health Authority. Honorable Speaker, it's sad that in some counties, and I think it was Trans Nzoia County that I was able to learn, many hospitals are not enlisted in the Social Health Authority. And therefore, anyone who walks into a public health facility in Trans Nzoia County, for instance, if that hospital is not enlisted by the county government in SHA, they will not get services by SHA. And that is why you hear a lot of negativity, people saying, including some of those governors claiming, oh, SHA is not working. It cannot work if the hospital is not enlisted in SHA. It will not work for you if you are not registered as a member and a paid-up member. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, the first bit of the universal health coverage, or the first pillar that we deliberated on when we passed these bills 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago, when we passed the 4 health laws, was to make sure that primary health care in the country becomes free of charge in the level 1, level 2, level 3 hospitals, Honorable Speaker. But the resourcing of those healthcare facilities must come from exchequer money, which is what now we are doing, giving them an additional 3 billion shillings, plus more resources that will come from members' subscriptions or member premiums for those who enlist. And therefore, I want to use this opportunity, Honorable Speaker, to encourage Kenyans to continue enlisting. Yesterday, I had an occasion to meet a good friend of mine, a reverend, who has been very critical of this program. But he told me in my office he had come to tell me that indeed this SHA is working, because his mom has had her bill catered for to the tune of 800,000 shillings at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. And Honorable Speaker, this money that we are appropriating today, not just for the Primary Healthcare Fund, but also for the Chronic, Critical and Emergencies Fund, I had occasion of a border rider, Honorable Speaker, who registered for SHA, never paid up for his premiums, and got into an accident. And under the health laws that we passed for SHA, when you have a critical emergency, an accident, or chronic and critical illnesses, those should be catered for not by the primary health care fund, but the chronic emergency and critical illnesses fund. That is a fund that you see, again, we are giving another 3 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that if you are registered in SHA and you get into an accident, you get into a hospital, whether you be referred to Kenyatta National Hospital or to KU Teaching and Referral, MTRH, Kisii Referral Hospital, whichever hospital, whether it's level 4, level 5, level 6, you will get treated and your bills will be catered for by SHA. And Honorable Speaker, those are some of the things. Honorable Speaker, because I can see I'm running out of time, it's also important to mention the question of the use of Article 223 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker. And we have deliberated on this matter at length. I am happy to note, Honorable Speaker, as much as we have requests of almost 80, I think it was 86 billion for use under Article 223. This is not unlike what was happening before when the National Treasury was spending money and coming for post facto approval. At least this time, Honorable Speaker, I note out of the 88 billion, only 44 billion is going to recurrent expenditure and 43 billion is going to development expenditure, and of which only 40 billion has already been disbursed, meaning another 48 billion shillings. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm saying, meaning about 48 billion shillings are requests they have come to this House to ask the House to approve. And this is what the National Treasury should be doing. And as I congratulate Honorable Atandi for his election as the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, and Honorable Kose, and all the members who have joined this committee, is to ask you to make sure that you set this as a new trend, that the National Treasury must be coming to the National Assembly to seek approval for expenditure before they spend. Unlike what was happening before, and they were spending money in all manner of things, including paying for land compensation, which are not emergencies. At least this time we can see money that is being spent is going into security operations that are of emergency nature, drought mitigation, and many other things, Honorable Speaker, that are listed in the report and the schedules that I don't need to go through, which fall into the category of what we ought to be approving under Article 223. And on that, let me congratulate the new Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury for endeavoring to do what he promised during his vetting, that he will adhere to the spirit and the letter of the Constitution and honor the work of the National Assembly. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to support.
Tandi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, before I make my submissions on the supplementary SMS 2, let me first of all take this opportunity to thank the Almighty God for enabling me to be the chair of Budget and Appropriations Committee, taking over from the very able and competent Kiaru MP Ndindi Nyoro. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that since the constitution of the broad-based government, the president has continued to do things that have continued to confound many Kenyans. One of the things that the president has done, Honorable Speaker, first of all, is to reorganize government and to bring some of us into cabinet. Honorable Speaker, when you attended the burial of the late CDF General Ogola, Honorable Speaker, you were present. When I challenged the president that there are certain positions in this country, Honorable Speaker, that have never been held by certain members of certain communities. And Honorable Speaker, as the majority leader has rightfully said, today we have the Cabinet Minister for Finance being the Honorable John Mbadi. That is a big milestone, Honorable Speaker, something that has never happened since independence. Honorable Speaker, today, again, I break the record as the first man from that region to chair Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honorable Speaker, this is a very big milestone that, first of all, I would like to thank the President of the Republic of Kenya for his bold leadership and for ensuring that whatever he says, he acts whatever he says. And when the President said that he wants to unite the country, Honorable Speaker, this is the real evidence that the President is really uniting the country. Second level Speaker, my party, the ODM, Orange Democratic Movement Party, and the leadership. Honorable Speaker, you know Baba is always present. And so I want to thank Baba for this opportunity. The leadership of this House, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Junet Mohammed is here, Honorable Speaker. Let me confess, Honorable Speaker, that Junet is the person who reorganizes our Zimio side. And for me to sit here, Honorable Speaker, it is the confidence that the Junet Mohammed has in me that has allowed me to chair this committee. Honorable Speaker, these are things that must go on record even before I start work. Honorable Speaker, I don't want to say much more from there, but just to make a few remarks on the supplementary estimates before the House. Honorable Speaker, the reality of the matter is that these estimates are before the House at the moment when the economy is stabilizing. This is something that I need to repeat for everybody to hear. That the truth of the matter is that the economy is stabilizing and these estimates are before the House at the correct time. One of the evidence that the economy is stabilizing, Honorable Speaker, is that prices of basic food has come down. Inflation has moved from as high rate in 2024 of 10%, we are talking about 3.5% as at February. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, also, our Kenya shilling has stabilized against major currencies, and especially the dollar, and evidence that the economy is doing very well. Honorable Speaker, fuel prices have also come down, and these three factors have given me the confidence that we are actually doing well and we are on the right track as a country. Honorable Speaker, one of the things that has been achieved, courtesy of these developments, is that we are having low food prices. Honorable Speaker, today, basic commodities prices have also come down, and generally, Kenyans are happy. But let me say, Honorable Speaker, that some of this, the factors that have led to this success is one, investments in agriculture. Honorable Speaker, you remember that the President decided to invest in production, subsidizing seeds, subsidizing fertilizers. This has led into what now we are calling sufficient food production and low pricing. Honorable Speaker, you can also see that we have had very good weather. Over the years, we have had good weather that has helped us. But Honorable Speaker, having said all that, we also need to recognize the challenges that we face. One of the challenges that we face, and which is captured in the supplementary estimates, is the piling of our debt. And we are spending so much money in paying our debts as they mature. This is going to be a very big problem as we go on. And also, there's also pressure for expenditures. Honorable Speaker, when I sat in the budget committee last time, all sectors are looking for resources. The road sector is looking for resources. The education sector is looking for resources. The health sector. So this pressure for resources is going to be a very big challenge for us. And therefore, as a House, we must look for ways in which we are going to raise our own resources to be able to fund some of these demands. Honorable Speaker, let me take this opportunity to thank the Liaison Committee, led by the able Deputy Speaker. Honorable Speaker, through your ruling, and to help the House make progress pending the composition of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, you decided that this supplementary budget be handled by the Liaison Committee. Honorable Speaker, I can confirm that the committee has done a very good job. They have been able to listen to Kenyans and committees, and the report that is before the House has the full support of me as the chairman of Budget Committee and members of my committee. As a matter of fact, Honorable Speaker, during our meeting in the morning, we were briefed on the progress of the supplementary estimates, and we were convinced that the committee has done a very good job. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, I would like to say that that there have been concerns have been raised in this House concerning the manner in which previous committees have allocated resources. Honorable Speaker, this is something that I'm well aware of, and the only thing I want to promise the country is that I'm going to preside over sharing of public resources in a manner that respects diversity of the country, in a manner that respects equity, and that each and every section of the country is going to benefit from the resources. Honorable Speaker, this is an assurance I want to give, and with the support of members of this House, I am sure that we are going to succeed. Honorable Speaker, thank you. I support.
Thank you, Chair Budget. Bowen. Give Honorable Bowen the mic. Give him the mic. You are giving.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the supplementary budget estimate number 2 of 2024-25, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, budgets are projections. That's why quarterly we review, because based on the revenue performance, on how the KRA are collecting, and that's why we keep on revising our programs and the budgets. And this is where we are. That we are at this budget, supplementary budget, Honorable Speaker, to provide resources to run the government for the next 3 months. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the Liaison Committee, and we deliberated on this supplementary too. And Mr. Speaker, you will find that, Mr. Speaker, as a country, we are operating at a very difficult time, given especially when the finance bill, when we lost the finance bill, Honorable Speaker, through the Gen Z demonstrations and all what we experienced in the country. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, we prioritized our key areas in this supplementary. Mr. Speaker, we prioritized the education sector because of the teachers which the government even employed. Some of them, they were interns, and in the past we were not able to absorb all of them. Mr. Speaker, there were also some bargaining agreements between the government and the various actors in education. Like what we saw in the Moi University, there was the government had an agreement with those tutors, and so we had to allocate some resources. So another area, Mr. Speaker, is the security sector, which also we prioritized as a committee. So we have a mission in IT. There is also some quite a number of operations, police operations going on across the country. In the North Rift areas of Turkana, Elgeyo Marakwet, because of the banditry there is some resources which were allocated, and also to our military, because those are the important sectors, Mr. Speaker, because if we don't have a peace in the country, so the economy we are talking about and all that comes with it, it is not possible. Mr. Speaker, there are many roads in the country which are stalled. We have so many roads across the country, and in this supplementary also, we were able to prioritize to make sure that our contractors goes back again to work. Might not be everywhere, but we make sure that we resource the ministry so that they can allow some of the contractors to go back and especially to finish up or to continue with those roads as we prepare a rainy season, Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, also on the issue of health, we also consider the health sector, Mr. Speaker. You have had many cries from many Kenyans, especially from the new UHC system through the SHA. And Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the SHA system is working. There are only some small teething challenges. And many of those people, Mr. Speaker, who are saying the SHA is not working, it works with those who have registered and have followed out the laid down procedures. But some people who have not, sometimes people go to the hospital when they want to be attended and they are not registered. We want to ask the Kenyans, if they want to get assistance from SHA, they must register. And Mr. Speaker, we have also allocated some money towards CDF, Mr. Speaker, so that to help many of our students who are still waiting for the bursaries. So, Mr. Speaker, I know we, even as a house, we have been asking many times, where is the money for CDF? The bursaries we have not disbursed. May I want to tell the honorable members, Mr. Speaker, that we have some allocation which will go towards the bursaries of our students. Mr. Speaker, on the water sector also, we considered there are so many stalled dams, water projects across the country, Mr. Speaker, and in this supplementary, we have provided some resources so that we can sort out pending bills and make sure that those stalled projects are again taken up and the contractors goes back to site. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of digitization, we want to really thank the government, Mr. Speaker, for moving many government services to e-citizen. Mr. Speaker, before, the government was collecting in terms of A in A. They were collecting almost close to 500 million a month from A in A. Lakini now, Mr. Speaker, the reports we got from... but now, Mr. Speaker, we are collecting close to 19 billion every month through the e-citizen, Mr. Speaker. So, you know, the honorable buyer is confusing me with Kiswahili here, Mr. Speaker. So, we are collecting close to 19 billion, Mr. Speaker. And it is, if we continue with the remaining services, Mr. Speaker, if we continue digitizing and put more services to e-government, I'm sure we are going to collect more in terms of A as a government. Mr. Speaker, Treasury, when they appeared before us, we told the CS Treasury, many government services have been digitized. But in Treasury itself, apart from the IFMIS, there is need for government to integrate IFMIS with the government payroll. There is need to integrate IFMIS with the government pension system. There is need to integrate IFMIS and have one single treasury account and create an accrual account so that we don't have every ministries, you know, having their own accounts. And by so doing, we will be streamlining the government finances. We also request the Treasury, Mr. Speaker, there is need to have a debt register. As a country, we realize that our debt management system is still done manually. So, and there is need to digitize so that we have one debt management system for the government. And the last, Mr. Speaker, I can say is the Article 223, which, Mr. Speaker, from what we saw, to an extent, if this House is not careful, Mr. Speaker, the Article 223 can be misused. Many is just withdrawn, and then they say, okay, because it's an emergency, it is a serious for security reason in government, and by so doing, Mr. Speaker, if it is not checked, it can be misused. So we requested the CS Treasury to make sure that if he wants to use the Article 223, he must write to this House for approval, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to ask colleagues that we support this supplementary budget too, so that we can resource our ministries, we can resource our government in the next remaining months of the year. Asante. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
George Murugara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to join members of the House in supporting the supplementary estimates too, which the liaison committee went through, burnt the midnight oil to ensure that we have this report ready, and we are able to approve the same for purposes of running the country for the next couple of months. Allow me to congratulate the Honorable Atandi, who is the new chairperson of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. I have worked with him in that committee severally in the past. I know he's very firm, meticulous, and that he's actually cut for the job. We'll only ask him to be a little bit slow to allow us to do committee works. And when we go there, let him not just tell us, you have to go by. We lost the Finance Act of 2024-25. And as a result, the country has been operating on supplementary estimates. I've just seen a report that we have actually paid out the Eurobond through various economic transactions, some of which may not be known to me because I'm a layman in economic matters, and that we've been able to procure further funding for the country, and therefore our liquidity levels continue to improve. As we pass this supplementary, mine would be to ask the Treasury, the National Treasury, the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, that let us consider the entire country for development, even if not equally, but equitably. We know very well that in the last few days, we had mamas in the house, and those mamas came along when we were shown figures regarding how budgets were applied to various parts of the country. We cannot say by any iota of speech that this was equitable, because possibly it was done in a very covert manner, that this was behind our backs. We didn't know what was being done because it was covered, but now it is coming to light that there would be skewed allocation of resources to favor certain regions against others. Let Treasury now come up, and especially for the rural marginalized constituencies, including my own constituency of Tharaka, we need to see resources being allocated so that we can also develop and catch up with those other areas that are actually developed in the country. We need to see resources going to energy. We have allocated resources both in the supplementary and the BPS. Areas that are down in the connectivity, their percentages are too low, must be looked at. We have areas that need to be watered. Our level of water availability is not the same in as much as water is devolved. The policy of water, the budgeting for water is actually done by the national government, and it should reign on even county governments to ensure there is equity when it comes to water supply in the various areas. Roads, we cannot debate this without mentioning roads. That it cannot be that only certain areas would be developed in terms of road network when others are left behind. As we look forward to the next BPS, which is going to be the budget for the year 2025-2026, we want to see equity in there, such that areas that do not enjoy tarmac roads are actually allocated sufficient money to start having tarmac roads. Because it is not fair to see areas almost 100% networked with tarmac and other areas with almost zero. That cannot be fair, that cannot be just, that cannot be equity in any way. Allow me to speak for some of the agencies that are under justice and legal affairs, including the judiciary, which is an arm of the government. I wish to thank the Liaison Committee because it has made certain provisions out of the way to ensure that judiciary is well funded, both in this supplementary and in the BPS. This is because judiciary has always been making complaints that as Parliament, we do not take care of them sufficiently. That the lion's share of the budget goes to the executive, then it is followed by this House, and they say we are a little bit selfish when we are allocating ourselves that money, and we give them what they consider to be paltry, insufficient. Thank you, Liaison, because of the provisions you have made in this supplementary for the judiciary. Thank you, Liaison, for the provisions you've made in the BPS, which we urge the Treasury to sustain, because there has been additional funding to ensure that the judiciary, which must succeed itself from time to time, we require new judges, we require new magistrates, we require new staff. This is why we have made those provisions. We also require courthouses in all constituencies in the country. It is the high time that people are served from where they are. You do not have to walk long distances to acquire legal services or judicial services or court services. Let services for the courts go as near as they can to the people. And this was across all the other agencies, including some in the state law department, others like the DPP, the ESCC.
Yeah, thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity, so that I add my voice to this important debate on the second supplementary estimates. Honorable Speaker, I want to start by appreciating the work which has been done by the Liaison Committee in terms of processing these supplementary estimates. Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy that the Liaison Committee got a chance to do this processing, because in the past, when they have appeared, when the chairs have appeared before the committee, they have always complained that it's a committee which reduces their budgets. I'm sure now they will not be saying it's a committee which is reducing their budgets, because they have seen what it takes to process a budget. You procedurally look at the bigger picture, not the departmental picture, which my friend Honorable Murogari is focusing on. But I'm very happy that you have managed to go through this. But even as I say that, Honorable Speaker, I just want to make the following observations. If you look at Article 223 of the Constitution, is where the issues of supplementary estimates are anchored. And normally, there are two key areas which you consider when you are dealing with the supplementary budget. The reason why we have supplementary budget, Honorable Speaker, is to address issues of unplanned activities, which are critical for nation building. The second one, Honorable Speaker, is issues of emergencies. And anytime we process a supplementary budget, those are things you should be considering. But over time, Honorable Speaker, there has been a problem with the way we have been processing our supplementary budget. And if you look at the past reports, and most of reports of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, you realize that these things have been captured many times. One of the key areas where we have raised issues of concern, Honorable Speaker, has been the issue of development budget. Honorable Speaker, the Public Finance Management Act provides that at least you should have a ratio of 70% recurrent, 30% development. And in many cases, you realize that when we are doing the annual estimates, we would, to some extent, try to adhere to those ratios. But now, when we start working on the supplementary budgets, Honorable Speaker, in many times, what suffers is a development budget. And in most cases, as we close the year, Honorable Speaker, you realize that the development budget has been reduced to a level which cannot sustain serious economic growth. And I think, Honorable Speaker, this is a matter the House needs to take very serious, so that even as we process these budgets, Honorable Speaker, we ensure that we don't allow serious reduction of development budget unless you don't want to grow the economy. So that's the one area I thought, Honorable Speaker, I need to mention. The other area, Honorable Speaker, which is critical because I've looked at this supplementary budget, is the issue of public participation, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, public participation, just to mention the history where it is said, Honorable Speaker, was actually allowed in this House so that when we go out there and interact with the Kenyans in different counties, it doesn't become just like a case where we go talk to people and we don't do anything as Parliament. So as an assembly, we did agree that it's important the executive allows some resources so that when Parliament goes out for public participation, Parliament can be able to include some projects of public interest into the budget, which will not be captured by the executive. It's on the basis of that, Honorable Speaker, that we introduce the public participation resources. But over time, they have been abused. And I saw, Honorable Speaker, the debate yesterday about public participation. And I want to say, really, over time, Honorable Speaker, because I've sat in this committee for long, Honorable Speaker, we have made sure that every 5 years, a term of 5 years, none of the counties goes without being visited by the budget committee. And initially, the allocation has been always 100 million for each county. So I want to challenge my colleagues to say which county has never been visited within 5 years, so that they get their public participation money. But of late, Honorable Speaker, there is a tendency whereby, even after putting the money for public participation, we end up removing the same resources during supplementary estimates. And I think really the House, Honorable Speaker, should be able to defend the position that money which has been allocated for public participation by this House should never be reduced during supplementary estimates. Honorable Speaker, the other bit relating to that is a situation whereby I think out there, because they know we have some amount, like now, if you look at the BPS, you have allowed about 3 billion for public participation. So, Honorable Speaker, you will not be able to understand. Come the annual estimates and you find we have 10 billion for public participation. You ask yourself, where does it come? And Honorable Speaker, I don't want to go into details, but if that is required, because I've been in this committee for long, I can provide those details, Honorable Speaker. So we're just saying as a House, we must protect the money for public participation so that we achieve our goal as a parliament, so that we also see to be doing something in budget making. The other issue, Honorable Speaker, is important, is the issue of misuse of the emergency bit, Honorable Speaker. And I like what the majority leader has said, Honorable Speaker. We've seen many times when the Treasury goes out of their way to use Article 223 to fund activities which can never be categorized as emergency, Honorable Speaker. And I think as a House, we need to guard that position that when it comes to emergency matters, 223 should only be used purely for emergency matters. In that case, then we will be able to manage the budget as it should be, Honorable Speaker. The third point, Honorable Speaker, which is critical, is the issue of the budget deficit. Honorable Speaker, I think now in this House, all the members know something called fiscal consolidation, Honorable Speaker, because this is a matter which has been discussed everywhere in this country. It's a matter which appears in all budget proposals. But Honorable Speaker, over time, we started very well. Like now, we are proposed in the coming year, we are going to have a budget deficit of 4.3% of the GDP. But I can tell you for sure, Honorable Speaker, by the time we close the year, you find we are around 6% or 5.something%, meaning that we are using the supplementary budgets to widen the budget deficit. And in reality, the more you do that, honorable members, the more you create room for more borrowing. And the other worrying thing, Honorable Speaker, is if you look at now our borrowing ratios, Honorable Speaker, we have moved from borrowing externally to borrowing domestically, Honorable Speaker. So you find, you look at the ratios, we are borrowing more domestically than externally. And what that does to our economy is that domestic borrowing, you pay higher interest rates, and you have a shorter repayment period. So the loans become very expensive. And that's why you see most of our recurrent demand now, our revenue is going to servicing interest payments. So, Honorable Speaker, as a House, we must guard a situation where we say now, like now I've seen we have proposed that 65%, that 5%. 65 should be external, that 5 internal. But the way I look at it, Honorable Speaker, once we take that position as a House, can we stick to it as a House so that we don't allow this flexibility which allows changing these ratios? Because they have serious implications to the economy when you allow them to be changed. So while I agree that this is important, even as we approve this supplementary budget, it is important we analyze what do these additional figures do to our budget deficit in terms of the ratios we approved the other time. The other thing, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of privatization of expenditure. Honorable Speaker, this is something which worries me a lot. And I want to speak as an economist, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in an economy, it is important we get priorities in terms of where do we spend our money, in terms of where do we spend our money as a country, public expenditure. And in most cases, you find that, Honorable Speaker, if you analyze this, you will not be surprised to find that we are pushing additional resources for recurrent expenditure and not development expenditure. How I wish as a House we could start saying that enough is enough, Honorable Speaker, and we want to see more resources being channeled to development as opposed to recurrent. In that case, we will grow our cake, and the more the cake becomes bigger, Honorable Speaker, the more we can all share this cake and then have everybody getting a part of the cake. So the issue of prioritization of expenditure, Honorable Speaker, is a matter which has been addressed for many years. The years have been this House, Honorable Speaker. And I think really we need to be very firm as a House so that when the Budget Committee says this is where we need to be, members will support that position, and then we are able to get these supplementary budgets helping the country as opposed to making the things worse for the country. I'm happy, Honorable Speaker, when I hear that the revenue status is changing, because what the majority has said is that we are now collecting more than we had projected. Although really, when you look at the statistics from the Kenya Revenue Authority, Honorable Speaker, I think we are still underperforming in most revenue streams. We are not performing as expected. So I wish that we also ensure that we don't have any leakages as when it comes to revenue collection. In that case, we'll be able to get more revenue, Honorable Speaker, and we'll be able to fund our activities. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I'm happy when I hear that we have put more priority, more focus on areas like SHA, education, because, Honorable Speaker, we are seeing our workers in this country. The health workers are complaining. University funding is a problem. SHA, we are having challenges in terms of financing, more so the critical area and the primary health care. It is important we put more resources in these social sectors because they form the foundation for proper economic development. With those many remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Innocent Mugabe is nowhere. Owen Bayer.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this supplementary estimates too for the year 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, supplementary budgets are usually provided even when the year is ending and there are some areas that are missing on money. I remember the Honorable John Badi, the emeritus leader of majority in this chamber. When he took office as the CS in charge of Treasury, he said very clearly that he will not use 223, yes, for government expenditure. But again, here we are seeing it. Looks like we can't run away from it, Honorable Speaker. But anyway, we must speak to it and actually provide money. And one of the things I want to say, one of the things that we must do is to ensure that as a country, we make money available for salaries and allowances for constitutional and independent officers. Honorable Speaker, in the budget there were shortfalls. And because these shortfalls were there, then we have to supply money and make sure that the salaries are given. Another important component, Honorable Speaker, of this supplementary estimate is that it was observed by the committee that pension payments under CFS will remain unchanged at 2 to 3.15 billion, including ordinary pensions of that. Commuted pension, 845. Honorable Speaker, I want to say that many Kenyans who are suffering because they have never received their pension after retirement. There are many teachers out there, they have retired, they have not received their pension. There are many public servants, there are chiefs and assistant chiefs who are out there, who are crying out loud because they have not received their pension. Honorable Speaker, if this supplementary budget is going to make available funds to ensure that we give money to chiefs in terms of and other public servants, we give them money to ensure that we pay their salaries, then this will do what is required to be done. Honorable Speaker, one important component is the health insurance, Honorable Speaker. The Social Health Authority has registered over 20.2 million Kenyans. There are many stories that it doesn't work, but there are also very good stories that it is working. And I want to tell this House that SHA is working. And there are many Kenyans that are benefiting from it. What we need to do is to ensure that we have provided money for it. So, Honorable Speaker, we are providing more money to ensure that primary health care fund and the emergency chronic and critical fund has been allocated additional 6 billion in the supplementary budget number 2. This, Honorable Speaker, is a step forward to ensure that we reach at universal health care for this country. Honorable Speaker, again, what is very important to me is issues of tourism. The creation of the Wildlife Conservation Trust Fund is in progress, with the necessary funds already deposited. However, an additional 50 million is required for resource mobilization, recruitment, and staff maintenance and other operational activities. Honorable Speaker, it is important that this important heritage that we have, especially wildlife conservation, continues as an important heritage for this country. And therefore, an additional fund to ensure that we run the Wildlife Conservation Trust is a step in the right direction. Honorable Speaker, I would like to speak about the blue economy. The State Department for Water and Sanitation has faced a significant budget cut, with its gross estimates reduced by 22 billion, while there is slight increase of Kenya shillings 87.2 for recurrent expenditure, the development expenditure has been slashed by 22.9 billion. This makes me sad, Honorable Speaker, coming from an area where blue economy is key. And when we speak, Honorable Speaker, in this parliament and say that blue economy or any other part of government, we say blue economy is important, it must actually be seen in the budget. You cannot be saying that blue economy is important. We cannot be saying that we want to invest in blue economy and then we cut it by that magnitude of funds. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that blue economy is important. We need to resuscitate the fishing industry. We need to ensure that all matters that are blue economy are properly done. But we cannot do it if we cut the budget by 22.9 billion. I have several landing sites that need to be built in Kilifi North or in Kilifi County, several of them, to ensure that fishermen have money to have areas where they can store their fish, where they can process their fish. But when we cut the blue economy expenditure by 22 billion, that hurts the economy at the coast, and that hurts the economy that we all depend on, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I note the cut, and I want to request the State Department to ensure that we put in more money there. Honorable Speaker, one of the important things that we need to take care of using this supplementary budget are these very many collective bargaining agreements. We have seen a proliferation of strikes in this country, a lot of industrial unrest in this country, a lot of labor issues because of money and all that. But what I'm happy about is that this budget is actually able to, this supplementary budget is able to take care of that. One of the most important things here is there are certain universities that are almost at the brink of collapse. One of them is Moi, and the other one is Egerton. These universities require urgent measures to ensure that they stay afloat. And one of the things that I have noted here, Honorable Speaker, is that there is some little money that has been put aside to help Moi and to help Egerton University. I think that is a very good positive. And I think the people in those areas and the professors there, I want to give them the good news that this government has set aside money to rescue Moi University and to also rescue Egerton University. Good universities that some of us, I went to one of the most prestigious universities in this country, but those who went to Moi, those who went to Egerton, those alumni who are now ashamed of those universities because they look like ramshackles now, I want to give them the good news. The good news that those small universities of yours are going to get money. They want to get money so that we can rescue them, Honorable Speaker. And I think that is very good news. You know, some of us went to very good universities in this country, not Moi or Egerton. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for the Honorable Buyer to use the floor of this House to demean and downgrade critical national institutions like Moi University, Egerton University, while our role as the representative of the people of Kenya is to boost the image and pride of those institutions? Because if any non-Kenyans today listens to what the Deputy Leader of Majority has said, it's like you will believe Moi University, it's a small university. No, Moi University, I'm an alumni of Moi University. Professor Kindiki is an alumni of Moi University. Honorable Duale is an alumni of Moi University. It was the second best university. The fact that somebody reckless, individuals who lack vision, have run down that individual, does not in any way negate the critical role those institutions have done. What you should be telling us right now is how can we secure, and by the way, for information, I'm glad that the Leader of Majority is also here. Even Nairobi University is on the verge of collapse. You know it. So are we safe? Where is our education? Just a minute, my friend. Okay. You're the one who started this topic.
Honorable Kenan,
is it in order?
Are you on a point of argument or a point of order?
Okay. My point of order is this, Mr. Speaker. Our education sector is going through a very serious crisis. Man-made crisis, financial crisis, mismanagement crisis, perceptional crisis. My friend Kimani Chunga, once upon a time when he was, now you know he's a big man, when he was my vice chair and the pick, he used to say, I am a product of the university. That university is no more. We have lost more university because of mismanagement. So I expect the good leader, deputy leader majority to say, we are doing this to resuscitate those good institutions, good former institutions, to their former original, so that these young Kenyans who are now still going to colleges can get the taste and the pride of those institutions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I want to thank you. Actually, that's the reason why we are putting in money to resuscitate those small universities, so that they can become big like the University of Nairobi or the famous Kenyatta University. That's what we are doing, so that they come to that level, Honorable Speaker. So stay put. We are resuscitating your university, Moi and Egerton, and that's very good news for this country. These universities need to come back to their feet so that they can continue to produce Adan Kainan and other people. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to add this. On internal security, Honorable Speaker, I think there was need to fund certain projects to make money available, Honorable Speaker, so that some of the projects that had been abandoned be resuscitated and moved. So this supplementary budget, Honorable Speaker, does that. And I can see some money.
Yeah, Honorable Kainan took 2 minutes from the Honorable Nbaya. Give him 2 minutes.
So we are putting more money in administration and internal security, Honorable Speaker, so that we can, those areas that had seemed to be underfunded are given an opportunity. Honorable Speaker, one other important thing is energy. If there is not enough energy, you cannot run this economy. We cannot run factories. We cannot be manufacturing. We cannot produce as expected of ourselves, Honorable Speaker. And because there had been underfunding in the energy sector, there was a very noble idea, Honorable Speaker. I don't know why, that every constituency gets 50 million for rural electrification, which came in the previous budget. But of course, the Gen Z issues happened and we lost that money. But I would have wanted that this money be put back in this supplementary budget. And I want to rally members of this House that what we can do in this supplementary budget, the only amendment that we need to make is to ensure we put back the 50 million per constituency for rural electrification, so that those areas that do not have electricity get electricity at least this financial. That dream was a noble dream. The dream to have 50 million per constituency for rural electrification would have equalized this country. But that was taken away during this time. But this supplementary budget should have done that, Honorable Speaker. They should have reinstated that 50 million times 290. And we are the budget-making house. And I would like to request members here to stand up to move an amendment to put back that money, the 50 million per constituency, so that the people of Kilifi North can also see power in the villages that we have, and the people of other areas in this country can see power. There's actually a skewed distribution of power, Honorable Speaker, in this country. But we can use the 50 million that was intended to rectify that error that was there, Honorable Speaker. So I want to request members of this House, as we pass this supplementary budget, I will move an amendment to put in the money back, the 50 million per constituency, so that we can get electricity in our areas. I want to thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add and add to what my colleagues who have spoken before me on this matter of supplementary that was culminated, that is going to culminate our main budget in the next 3 months. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to declare that I'm the member of budget, and I also want to congratulate my chair, who we elected today, and the vice chair, and all the new members that joined us. Yesterday, some of us were called remnants, but we are here to serve the people. But still, Mr. Speaker, I listened and I read briefly on the supplementary. This supplementary is done to recorrect most of the injustices that was done during the lack of passing of the finance bill. And it is a very crucial document that this country needs this money for purposes of growth and prosperity, and to enable the country to run. And therefore, even as we debate, we are only emphasizing on the areas that is needed to be given more monies so that the country runs smoothly. On the areas of, I want to talk about most of these departmentals, because when I sit in the budget, Mr. Speaker, I don't sit to formulate the budget. I sit and oversight budgets that have come from departmentals, and many times from departmentals in ministries. Sometimes people think members of parliament sit and formulate and pass the budget. The executive, through economic advisors of the president, play a very key role when determining where the budget of this country goes. So members of parliament, specifically members of the budget, only passes what has been given to them by the respective departments. And therefore, it is very easy to say, someone else and members of parliament, please, when you are distributing or you are passing this, please give us equity. The equity does not start in parliament. The equity starts right from the departments of government, ministries. These are people we should lay and ask them to distribute resources fully, so that when it comes to us here on the floor of the House, it is going to be reflecting the map of this country. Mr. Speaker, people are talking about injustices through the resource allocations. If you talk about water, roads, for instance, electricity or energy, there are areas that has, for a very long time, benefited better than other areas in the country. It is because it is who determines, whoever sits there. And many times, executive plays a key role. And I want to say, as a member of parliament, my work is to oversight, to legislate, and to represent. And as I do that, I want to say that the executive should help us represent the people properly by giving us the opportunity through resource allocations and distribute these resources in a very fair and justifiable. And that is, and going forward, Mr. Speaker, I want to say, as a member of budget, I'm going to be among the few who are going to be strict to see that resources has been fairly distributed in this country. On matters of health, which is a consideration in this supplementary, when we introduce the Taifa Care in replacement of NHIF, apart from the teething problem that people say that we are still having, the whole program is working, but we must have the consistency, not only through government programs, but even the registration of Kenyans. They should learn that services can only be given to them when they adhere to the rules and policies that are given by government, so that we have the flow. But on the other side, Mr. Speaker, I have a problem. On these matters, universal, on SHA, and I can see the chair, the newly appointed chair of proposed chair for health department committee is looking at me. I want to say the biggest problem I have is the claim that is done in hospitals. Patients will go to the hospital and they get treated, courtesy of SHA. They will go home and say and proclaim that SHA is working. But when the hospitals are not given or given, they are not given their claims in time, the tendencies are, if the same patient, as much as is registered, goes back to the same hospital, he might not find that hospital. Because when you don't pay claims in time, you lose the hospital in terms of the infrastructure. I mean, people lose jobs. there will be no proper way of sustaining the hospital. So giving the services through SHA is one, but also make sure that claims are done in good time. And officers within the ministry should be able to know at what time, if it is a given hospital, like let's say Nairobi Women, which is a very critical hospital. And it has been a lot of claims that these hospitals have been closed because patients go there, they get all their services, they go home happy, but because the hospital is not reimbursed in good time, they end up closing the hospital. Means that when the same patient or other patients comes, they don't find same treatment and same services. That is a very key component in this SHA. And while we put money, those are the things that we need to consider. These are the things that we need to put in consideration so that it doesn't look like some people are benefiting and we have only a few people who are appreciating, while the bigger picture is actually lost. Mr. Speaker, I also want to talk about education. Members before me have spoken about universities, the new model and the dilapidation of good education programs that used to be there. I think as the time goes, people lose the first and the original track in terms of academic. But the more so, Mr. Speaker, as much as we allocate this money, we need proper management. But who is mandated to oversee management in government? If I'm giving money to university and vice chancellors and team, or primary schools and secondary schools, and we don't have people who follow up and to make sure that the same money are properly used for the intended purposes, it means we'll be just doing budgeting every year and every year. Because I want to take, for example, if you go to rural schools, even in urban areas nowadays, most of the schools, public schools, secondary and primary, are all in bad shape. But you'll always realize members of parliament through CDF inject money through the same schools, but the management right from the teachers, because it's a public school, no one cares. Today, you buy desks to school, you equip the school with the laptops. In the next term, you come and you actually find it, you're actually starting afresh. Meaning, it is not about allocating the money. We need to look at who is the manager so that we are able to have these resources pass through other generations. It is not hard to get money, but it is always very hard to manage these monies for a betterment of our future. Others, I want to say I support, and I'm going to be very vigilant this time as I meet a survivor of the remnants. And I want to say we are going to do as much as possible to make sure this country gets equitable resources. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Julius Meli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise up to support the supplementary.
Honorable Julius Meli, after you, I'll give preference to our Muslim brothers and sisters for known reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know our Muslim brothers, they are having, what do you call it, a celebration or you call it iftar, yes. Thank you for informing me that. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this bill. This is a supplementary appropriation bill, supplementary bill 2. And more importantly, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that this bill takes into consideration the debt management strategy in the sense that it ensured that the spending is actually brought down and does not go against the management of debt in the country. There are several issues that I want to point out, more importantly, on what the supplementary budget took into consideration. Issues that are of importance, Honorable Speaker, are issues that touches on pensions of retirees. I want to say that as much as the retirees serve this country with dignity, with commitment, and with dedication, many of them are actually having problems in their retirement. They aren't not able to pay for medical bills. They cannot even pay for their school fees and assist their family members. They cannot even afford to buy bread and put food on the table. Yet they have served this country for 30, 40 years. Honorable Speaker, this is the time that we need to have pensions to be the first charge in all our payments. So that immediately we need to know government through planning. And I want to really ask the National Treasury to put a lot of emphasis on the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. If we can plan, if we cannot get to know how many of the money that we are collecting is supposed to go to retirees, to debt, and to development and service provision, we as a country are going to have a problem. So retirees needs to actually be taken into, to be the first people to be considered. Majority of members here are actually in their 50s, 60s, and even some are even senior. Yes. I'm saying so because even for those who are young, if you don't make a plan, you will retire into problems. You will retire into a lot of problems as you leave this particular house. So I want to call the National Treasury that as they are preparing this budget, as we are preparing the supplementary budget, every other time, critical considerations have to come into play so that we do not make or put into place cuts that injure certain programs, certain projects, certain government services. Two, Honorable Speaker, I want also to say that the budget speaks of a number of cuts. We have several cuts which at times will also injure the growth, the overall growth of the economy. We also need to look into to put into consideration areas where we need to know why are we cutting. Let me put into consideration the issue of pending bills. Pending bills and contracts that have been signed. And let me put an example in the TVET sector. 17 TVET projects, the government signed contracts, they awarded them, and the money is not provided in this particular supplementary budget. This means that the government will, first of all, get into court litigations, will get a lot of interest, and in fact, because they have actually gone against contractual obligations, the government will lose a lot. So in trying to develop a supplementary budget, we really need to know what are we bringing supplementary budget for. If we have the 52 TVET institutions without money, yet the ministry awarded the contracts for them, what will the contractors do? These contractors owe suppliers. They have workers. They have individuals they depend on. If this money is paid to them, it will spur the economy of that particular area and therefore enable the young people who could have worked in these particular projects to have the ability to purchase and buy and use resources. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that the issue of having a budget cut, which is not strategic or which is not informed, is quite wrong. We also have the issue of, and this brings into the issue of planning. I want to really emphasize the aspect of planning in every institution, and more importantly, this country, so that every other time we sit and allocate resources, every other time that we sit and try to bring a project or a program in place, we should plan the whole of it, the whole hog, from the feasibility study all the way to completion, so that we do not have ad hoc financing, ad hoc cuts, to an extent that projects go into the stall. On the issue of education and training, Honorable Speaker, I want to just say that in this budget, yes, there was a provision for capitation, but the capitation that we are provided in schools is not enough. Out of the money we give, which is actually allocated for schools, 22,000, the money withheld at the headquarters is about 5,000. The money that reaches schools is very little. So in this case, we need to actually make sure that as much as there is no enough money, and actually we have a capitation deficit of 20 billion, Honorable Speaker, on capitation alone on secondary schools. We have a capitation deficit of almost 30 billion overall in the primary, in the basic education subsector. That means even the schools, the principals, have a problem in running those schools, because they use this money to pay the BOM teachers. They use the same money to buy equipment and use it in those particular schools. So the provisions of money for this supplementary, in supplementary, especially on capitation for schools, and more importantly, even the universities, capitation for TVET. The universities, I know, have issues, especially on the issue of the funding formula. We did talk to the ministry and higher education, more importantly, on the issue of coming up and looking at the issues that were raised by the courts, addressing those particular issues, and making sure that the funding formula and the students get the money. The biggest problem that we have in this particular supplementary is the university stalled projects. We have over 80 stalled projects in the universities, and none of them, I think about 2 of them, were only funded. This raises a lot of questions now on the use, the rot that will be occasioned by the rain, the pending bills that will attract penalties for the government, and even more, that the students have their hostels or their administration blocks are not in use, the laboratories and all this. So I'm actually asking that as we move ahead on the issue of supplementary, and now we wrote the BPS, it is prudent on this House to sit down and allocate resources on areas that touches the people a lot. I want to support the issue of SHA. It has been allocated 6 billion shillings. These resources will actually go a long way in assisting our people. That particular resource, I want to ask the new chair and congratulate him, because he's a renowned medic, to make sure that the program runs down. And the teething problem that we have in SHA is a very good program. Those particular small teething issues, set up a team of experts, both in administration, in ICT, and in management, so that as we move along, those particular issues are corrected, and the Kenyans are able to walk into a hospital, be treated, and get to his or her home without any problem. This issue of a number of complaints being raised every other time should not arise. It is a management issue. It is an ICT issue. It is an issue that needs to be addressed, our chair, health. And I want to ask honorable members that we move across after those particular issues. And I want to ask Honorable Nyekal, who is a very respectable member of this House, that would be even good that those particular issues that have been raised, you bring it to speed to members, tell us how you've handled them, how we can assist the government to publicize it out there in our constituencies and run out so that every Kenyan is able to benefit from this. Apart from that, we have the youth programs. This bill, this supplementary has addressed a number of youth programs, a number of water programs, and more importantly, the roads. I want to say that if the issues that have been raised, especially the payment of pending bills on roads, Honorable Speaker, will actually be addressed, then you'll see that most of the issues that we have, especially on circulation of money in the country, from the contractors, from the water contractors, from the road contractors, and from the contractors in schools, will actually be a thing of the past. Lastly is the issue of CDF. I've seen we've allocated resources on CDF. CDF is a very pivotal fund in this country. And I want to ask that let this fund be disbursed as early as possible because it affects every home in this country. Bursaries is 90% funded by CDF. Construction of schools. I think if we are to do a comparative study on how much or how some funds have assisted this country, CDF have seen the development of hundreds or thousands of schools across Kenya, has seen a number of students who are not able, who could have otherwise not been able to go through school, benefit from CDF scholarship. I've seen in my constituency where most orphans, students from orphan background, are able to get school fees and go through from in secondary schools. I also want to say that the issue that we need to put a lot of emphasis is the issue of in diaspora and foreign markets and foreign labor. This is the time that we need to look at what other nations have done. I think we've seen what the migrant laborers from our sister countries like India and the Southeast Asia have done, even in the Middle East. This is the time we need to study what they've done, how we can do, and how we can do it better. So, Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this and ask my colleagues to support these supplementary estimates 2 of 2025-26. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Adan Kinan.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, by definition, supplementary is used to address unexpected and avoidable circumstances. Because people are questioning, because a government is a system. In fact, in some jurisdictions, some of these developed countries, they have supplementary estimates almost every month. So it's not a surprise, it's not out of place that we have this is supplementary to almost 3 months or 4 months to the end of the financial year 2024-2025. So it's not unexpected. And the other bit, Mr. Speaker, that supplementaries are used actually to address also, to adjust the budget realities with the framework, the fiscal framework. Equally, supplementaries are also expected to cater for any carryovers from the previous financial years. So in our context, this second supplementary is in line with the PMF Act. It's not again out of the blue. I've heard people talk about it. Equally, the framers, and I know you're a seasoned lawyer, of the current constitution were not fools to have Article 223. Because they imagine you are running a system. Even in your own family, when you budget, I'm sure for money, if you have a weekly budget, and I want every member here to try this, try to have a budget for your family for 1 week. Within that week, you'll change 3, 4, 4 times. How about a state, a system, managing the affairs of over 50 million people? So it's not out of the norms. But Mr. Speaker, there are certain things that we need to address. While we expect that is the reality, we must also look at what will add value to the well-being of the people of Kenya, in particular the crisis in the education sector. Is it because of lack of funding? Is it because of inadequate funding? Is it because of mismanagement? Is it because of the decay in our society that today some of the key critical institutions like Nairobi University, Moi University, Egerton University are almost struggling? If you go to Moi University, Mr. Speaker, Moi University has some of the best infrastructure, educational infrastructure an institution is supposed to have. I am told during our days in the late early 90s or late 80s, some of the facilities like the Margaret Thatcher Library was the epicenter of the best ICT facilities, not only in Africa, but in the entire world. Today, I'm told, we used to have some of the best student facilities. Even the administration, I'm told the whole infrastructure is dilapidated. Students are running away. We can only blame ourselves. That rot needs to be cured. Nairobi University ICU, And I'm sure many of you, your colleagues here, have gone to Nairobi University simply because of the tussle, the power struggle between the management and the council. Can that not be cured? Egerton University is going through the same. As much as we invest in CPC, we must also be prepared to protect those critical institutions that are supposed to take over. You know, look at the stages in our education system. You have gone through CPC. Ultimately, you want to go to a university. That university is being destroyed. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge colleagues, and I know the chairman, our able chairman of the education is here. Please don't fear. We need to support our institutions. I know you have done something about Moi University after 8 years, because of that rock VC. I'm sorry to say this. But equally, look at Nairobi University here. Mr. Speaker, the other bit is the issue of bending bills, both at the national and the county government. Somebody has rightly put it here. Unless we have a thriving business environment for entrepreneurs, because state avenues or business with the state is supposed to be the most lucrative business for any will-be business person. But instead, because there's comfort, there's predictability, there's also certainty when you trade with business with governments, and that's all over the world. But here in our Kenya system here, Mr. Speaker, you do business with the national government, you are not paid. You have a loan, you have other commitments, so we are destroying the sector. The same thing applies to the county government. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the leadership to put a program together to sort out the bending bills once and for all, if truly our desire is to have a meaningful economic growth and expansion of our capital base. Mr. Speaker, doing business right now is becoming a very risky venture. Mr. Speaker, as we go through this, in the next supplementary or in the next budget, priorities should be given to the business community. Because once we have a thriving business community, I can assure you, you will have a thriving economic growth. Mr. Speaker, this country on the face of it, we are supposed to be the epicenter of commerce and civilization. I'll not use the other one. And East, South, and Central Africa. But if you compare ourselves right now with the neighboring countries, Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, look at their GDP growth. Why are we stagnant and why are they growing? Yet we are in the same environment, the same ecosystem called the East African Community. It's simply because of our management styles. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the news right now, every day, and I'm sure you are an analyst, and open the first page of all the leading newspapers, it is negative news. It's as if Kenya is coming to an end. It's as if everybody wants to run away from Kenya. This country is about us. And we are the leadership. I want to urge also the owners and the media practitioners to be fair to this country. We do not have a second country. This is the only country. Maybe Kenyans are lucky. We have never gone through militarism. We have never gone through a civil war. You need to find out from those who have gone. Some of us have relatives in Ethiopia and Somalia, Mr. Speaker, and we have gone through hell. So can we be responsible in what we do, even as we criticize the government, even as we criticize ourselves? Let's be objective. That will not destroy anybody. Mr. Speaker, coming to this, I know right now, under the leadership of the Honorable Body, this particular department actually is being properly managed, but the realities. When he was being vetted, he talked about the use or not using of Article 223. It's just like when you want to marry, you know it, all the sweet things that you want to use. But then the reality that will come is once you affirm that commitment, there are certain things that change in your modus operandi. So Article 223 will forever be there for any government. You can have it under different names. And that is why right now it's a reality. So Speaker, the other bit is there are regions that have been left behind. So Speaker, you know this. Equalization is a critical component under the current constitution. The sunset period is coming to an end. Yet the benefits are almost zero. Almost zero. And the original intention was to have these regions that have been neglected over the years. Actually, we crafted it along the lines of the Marshall Plan of the end of the Second World War. But today, there's nothing that I can comfortably say is a product of equalization. Two, one, because of the many cases the governors have staged. Two, because of the bureaucratic nature of our system. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the leadership to prioritize this, address all the lacunas, and ensure that equalization benefits as it was intended. Mr. Speaker, the other bit is something that I've heard you comment about. This country is about us. I come from Northern Kenya. I did not choose to be born in Northern Kenya. Not if you remove Northern Kenya from the map of the Republic of Kenya, you will not have a country. That map of Kenya will be very ugly. Yet the people that I represent are entitled to the same developmental needs like somebody from the mount. We do not have first class or second class citizens. We have Kenyan citizens. Meaning, therefore, there must be equity, there must be fairness in the distribution of the national resource. That is the only way we can collectively pride ourselves and say we are citizens of the Republic of Kenya, equal before God and equal before the law. So that we can all submit to the will of God through this constitution, the will of the people through this constitution, because it's God that ordains everything. And Mr. Speaker, the framers of the current constitution were not also fools. In the opening chapter, when they equated representation to our sovereignty. This must be reflected in the budget-making process. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, again, the framers of the current constitution in the past, the budget-making process was a preserve of the executive. Luckily, this morning, we have passed the budget policy statement. It's a precursor to the budget-making process. Today, we are doing supplementary too. So I want us to look at this holistically so that when my region that has been disadvantaged gets a small benefit, it should be the pride for every Kenyan citizen. When the people of the lake who have been neglected over the years get certain benefits out of, right now, the broad-based arrangement, that should attract celebrations, not condemnations. And this is what will give us a country. So in conclusion, this is good. It's an eye-opener. And I want to urge the leadership to be fair in the distribution of our national cake. I support this, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Gabriel Tongoy.
Thank you so much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity also to add my voice on this very important matter on the consideration of the second supplementary estimate for the financial year 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, from the very onset, I want really to most sincerely appreciate the Liaison Committee under the leadership of our very able Deputy Speaker, who really midwifed the entire process until to this stage. And they have really done it very well, despite that they got themselves in that particular position, occasioned by dissolution of the budget committee, and they have really done quite well. They had put their time, commitment, and that's why we are here. Honorable Speaker, and even, of course, not to forget the departmental committee, who really put a lot of effort to this particular work. Honorable Speaker, this supplementary two is coming after the suspension, of course, of the finance bill, which occasioned the more of actually kind of a revision of the estimates of the previous year. And that the suspension of finance bill, Honorable Speaker, occasioned extreme cuts and reduction across all government sectors. So this supplementary budget is really coming in handy to help the MDS and SAGAs to smoothly run their departments, awaiting the estimates ahead of us. Honorable Speaker, I want also to take this opportunity to really thank the National Treasury and the Kenya Kwanza government, led by His Excellency, for putting up very robust and progressive policies in place that has enabled this country, actually, the economical situation of the country to have a trajectory, a positive trajectory. And that is actually why we are in a good financial footing to even enable this supplementary budget, have several additionals to enable us address the very critical sectors in this country. Honorable Speakers, I want just to mention a little bit highlight in the supplementary budget that is before this House for consideration. And actually, I just mentioned that several key government sectors have really had positive additionals. And more importantly, like in the road sector, Honorable Speaker, the road sector in the supplementary budget before consideration in this House, the road sector has had a 7 billion addition, which is actually the majority of it has been securitized through the road fuel levy, which will go a long way to enable us, actually majority of this country, which has not been getting equitable distribution of road resources to get a majority of their projects, which are stalled, addressed, Honorable Speaker. In fact, when we were going through this kind of documents and reviewing the figures, we were so impressed, and it's good to note, Honorable Speaker, and to be on record, that looking at around 6 point something billion that are actually has been already been utilized under 223, you can really appreciate the principle of equity, the principle of fairness, that this road has been fairly distributed across the country. And there's no question this opening up of roads fairly distributed in the country will enable even the agriculture sector to really grow and able to address the issue of difficulties of having the farmers across the country having really access of their produce, access to the market. So the security sector really had a big increase, which I support, Honorable Speaker. On the issues of agriculture, Honorable Speaker, there is an additional about 7 billion, which seems to be addressing the issue of fertilizer subsidy. And Honorable Speaker, it's good to note that when the Kenya Kwanza government came into power, this country was really struggling with food insecurity. We remember, Honorable Speaker, we have some people who are doing demonstration all over the place, putting the sufrias in their heads, because the cost, yeah, it's true. I see Dr. Nyikal laughing. Because actually the cost of food, edible oil, the maize flour, and many foods were really so much high, beyond the reach of the majority poor Kenyans. But through the intervention of Kenya Kwanza government, largely through fertilizer subsidy, we as a country managed to produce more and food in plenty, and definitely the prices of food produce went down, and of course translated even the cost, the inflation to come down. Honorable Speaker, there is also an additional 7 billion, which goes to the issue of sugar. We know the president has been so much categorical and determined to address the big problem in sugar in this country, which has been there for quite too long. And I'm sure there are colleagues here in the House who come from the sugarcane growing belt. They are actually in celebration mood because the flourishing of the sugars. And I want really to support this. I know it's no doubt is going really to enable this sector, very crucial sector in this country, to continue having an upward growth. Honorable Speaker, more importantly also, the issue in the milk sector. In the budget, there is an additional 2 billion shilling, which the majority of the pastoralist community and members here, where some of us come from, there is an additional 2 billion, which I think will actually enable some farmers and communities to have the milk coolers, which has been promised by His Excellency the President. And I want also to appreciate that the issue of the milk coolers, coming at a time even the cost of milk per liter is been now at 50 shillings, will be able really to spark growth and able to help a great deal. Honorable Speaker, I want also to mention the critical sector, security sector. In the supplementary budget before us for consideration, Honorable Speaker, it's good to appreciate that there is a 2.5 billion Kenya shilling for police modernization. Honorable Speaker, you remember, because we sit in the same committee, the Kenya Kwanza government embarked on modernization of our security sector, mostly the national police and security organs. And in the first financial year, there was a 6.5 billion. There is now another additional 2.5 million. And we can contribute this very, very, to even reduction of insecurity and cattle rustling in majority of the troubled counties. More to mention just the North Rift, the Kerio Valley. In the latest report, when the president had the national address, we noted that there was a reduction of insecurity in those regions by 70%, which is so recommendable. And to a big extent, this could be attributed to the issue of modernization of our police officers who are helping us to maintain peace in those regions. So the continued adding resources to this modernization program is so much welcomed, and is no doubt is going to help our police officers who are making sure that this country is safe to enable them carry on their duty with ease. In the same sector, Honorable Speaker, it's good to appreciate that the insurance, there's a 5 billion for the insurance of our police officers that will able to add the already existing 3 billion. But again, it's good to note that there will still be a deficit of about 6 billion, Honorable Speaker. But it's no doubt this is much welcomed. We know how important roles and the danger, or kind of how they're vulnerable our security officers are. So the issue of insurance is extremely critical and important for them. And this is really more very, very encouraging. Honorable Speaker, we also note in the same supplementary about 500 million in the DCI, which is in the form of A&A, more importantly in the sector of good conduct, AFIS certificate. And I want to tell Kenyans that this is a very important critical consideration, because we all know that at some times when Kenyans apply for these very important documents, they have to wait a little bit long, because at times we go manual, at times maybe actually the certificate expires. So enabling the DCI to have an A&A will enable them to really produce the good conduct certificate in real time. Actually, they were telling the committee when they appeared that they can be able to be doing it in less than 3-4 days. So this is very much appreciated and supported. Honorable Speaker, in the same sector, there is a 5 billion Kenya shilling that goes to really in the issue of e-citizens and ETA. ETA is electronic, sorry? What is out of order?
It is out of order.
Mr. Speaker, it is very unfair when the chairs of the committees who sits in the liaison committee already discussed the supplementary budget. It is very fair to give other members to discuss it. It is very unfair. They are wasting time, Chair. They have done what they have done. Yes, their own thing, their own baby.
Honorable.
Yes.
Order. 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 Please, Honorable Wario, take your seat. The Honorable Chairs, Honorable Wamboka. Order. Yeah, could you proceed, Honorable Tongoyo?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker,
let us not
for
raise
protecting me.
points of order when it is not necessary to do so. No, get it. Sit down.
Thank you, Speaker.
All members have equal right to speak. And I'm giving members of parliament the opportunity to speak as members of parliament, not as chairs of committees. Proceed,
Thank you.
Honorable Togoy.
Kindly protect me, Speaker. Protect me, Speaker.
Let me caution Honorable Wamboka. Honorable Wamboka, let me caution that the standing orders also speak to disorderly conduct when you unnecessarily raise points of orders. I want this debate to proceed. Yes, Honorable Tongoyo, proceed.
I'm actually even
Honorable
about
Wamboka,
just to wind.
Speaker.
I'm actually almost winding up, Honorable Speaker, and thank you for protecting me. Honorable Speaker, I want also to really appreciate there is, in the same budget, there is 6 billion, which goes for equalization. I know this is an extremely very deserving sector, and it also goes a long way to help. Honorable Speaker, as I as I near actually to finish this, Honorable Speaker, you remember in the afternoon session, Honorable Speaker, there was a lot of question on the issue of operationalization of several gazetted units all over this country. And members from both divide were really on my neck on actually why the ministry is not operationalizing this unit. And in the same budget, Honorable Speaker, it's good to appreciate there is an allocation of about 280 million, which will enable us to operationalize a few units, though the sector still needs a lot of resources to have all of our gazetted units operationalized. So, Honorable Speaker, with this, I want to really support the motion, and want to say that it is really coming at the right time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I support.
Guyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mimi leo nafurahi kuongea hapa. Niko tayari nisiende kufuturu, lakini niongee chair. Kwa sababu leo ni siku ya Kiswahili, napenda kuongea kwa ile dhulma imefanyika kwa hii supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, inasikitisha sana. Wakati bajeti ya Kenya inapangwa, kuna wale wa Kenya bora zaidi kuliko wa Kenya wengine. Wakati Tana River kuna shida ya maji. Kuna miradi ya maji zimetangazwa kupitia Ministry of Water chini ya Coast Water Development Works. Imetangazwa miradi ya maji kwa magazeti. Lakini wakati ya kutolewa tenda ama barua kwa wanakandarasi wanaambiwa hakuna pesa. Tukikuja kuangalia katika supplementary budget, imekuwa sisi wabunge wa sehemu hizo ni kusindikiza tu. Wakati wale wako na maji ndio wanawekewa pesa, sehemu ambayo wako na shida ya maji, tunafanya water tracking, kutumia mfuko zetu, gharama zote watu wetu wanateseka. Wamama wanakufa kwa visima ya kuchimba na mkono, wanyama wetu wanakufa kwa ukosefu wa maji. Bwana Speaker, ni dhulma kubwa sana. Kwa hivyo hii supplementary budget, zile miradi ambayo kwamba imetangazwa kwa magazeti, hasa sehemu zetu, ni miradi ukiona Tana River mzima ni less than 50 million. How can you remove 50 million from a supplementary budget when the entire billions of shillings going to other parts of the country? Kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, mimi nasimama hapa kuweka wazi kwamba kuna dhulma imefanyika katika hii supplementary budget. Lazima irekebishwe chini ya mwenyekiti ambaye amefanya hii mambo, Deputy Speaker wa hii bunge la kitaifa, Mheshimiwa Gladys Bosholei. Hiyo ni dhulma sana. Kwa hivyo Bwana Speaker, hiyo ndio imefanyika. Ile miradi ya Tana River ya maji yote irudishwe. Kuna miradi ya public participation. Bunge la kitaifa imeweka bilioni 2 kufanya public participation. Inafanya rotation county zote. Nimesikia katika hii bunge inakuwa bashed. Sisi ni afueni tumepata kupitia supplementary budget ambaye ni milioni 100 inawekwa miradi tofauti. Saa hii Mr. Speaker, hiyo yote imetolewa. Kwa hivyo sisi tunasema kama haki inatendeka nchi hii chini ya broad based government ambaye sisi tunaunga mkono, hizo miradi zote zirudishwe ili watu wa Tana River wapate haki zao. Pole sana Mr. Speaker, nilikuwa nimesimama kwa point of order kwa sababu
I'm seeing on the motion some 3 billion approved to go through for public participation. Is it the same thing?
Chair, I think it is not the same thing.
Okay.
So Chair, mimi nasema hiyo pesa ambayo miradi ishatangazwa kwa magazeti, sheria imefuatwa na pesa ilikuwa kwa bajeti, chini ya hii supplementary budget imetolewa, hizo pesa irudishwe ili haki ipatikane. Kama hiyo haijafanyika, basi hiyo ni dhulma kubwa sana bunge la kitaifa imefanyia watu wa Tana River. Kwa hivyo yangu ndio hiyo. Asante sana Bwana Speaker.
But Honorable Wario, why should some regions be entitled to billions of money simply because the Budget and Appropriations Committee chose to meet there? Doesn't it distort the national budget? Because just look, why should some regions get up to 2, I'm seeing up to 3 billion simply because the Budget and Appropriations Committee chose to go and meet there? Does it not distort budget, and what would be the legal anchorage for it?
Mr. Speaker, hiyo sio budget committee imefanya. Hiyo ni mtu binafsi ambaye anatumia majina ya wale wadosi wakubwa wa Kenya hii. Sio budget committee imefanya. Budget committee imedhulumika, hakuna chochote inapata kwa sababu sisi wengine unajua vile tumeingilia pande gani. Kwa hivyo mwenyekiti, hiyo ukienda kwa bajeti, nenda kwa bajeti hata ya barabara. Nenda uiangalie Tana River inapata ngapi.
You made your point.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Kwa hivyo hiyo sio budget committee imeweka hiyo. Hiyo ni haki ya watu wa Tana River ambaye ni Wakenya kama Wakenya wengine. Na si Tana River peke yake, Mr. Speaker. Wakenya wengine wengi wanaumia sana kwa sababu ya hii dhulma ya kihistoria. Kwa hivyo tunasema hiyo pesa irudishwe ndio Wakenya wengi wapate haki yao. Asante sana.
The Honorable Yusuf Mohamed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
The Honorable Dr. Nyikal, you are very close to him. Why don't you let him present, then you make your contribution? Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add voice to this supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, first, I want to support partially the supplementary budget. I am saying partially because it is better than before, but it is not still showing the face of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the supplementary budget is brought to cure certain issues or gaps that has been seen in the main budget. Mr. Speaker, it is very unfortunate this country budgets for certain projects, advertises, procures, and awards contractors to go to site. But unfortunately, after the award, then the government of Kenya, the executive comes up with a supplementary budget proposal that again removes the same projects from the list of the supplementary budget. Mr. Speaker, in that event, creates more bending bills in this country. We have bending bills in each and every sector and department in this country, Mr. Speaker. That puts the entrepreneurs, the contractors, the business people into problems by not doing business at all, or some of them even becoming bankrupt, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are TVETs, 22 of them that was advertised, awarded, and contractors were sent to site. But unfortunately, to my dismay, it is not reflected in this supplementary budget. What do you expect of the same contractor who was sent to site to construct a TVET somewhere in Harado, but with no budget? What will he do? He has put his money there. It was in the main budget, but not now. And probably the next budget, we will not find it. How do we cure the problems that the department are prioritizing new project over the ongoing projects? This House needs to come up with a mechanism. Although the bending bill is the first charge of each department, but the problem is it has not been implemented. How do we force the department to implement that before they procure new projects, they must clear the pending bills. Mr. Speaker, I am in the department, I'm in the Committee of Agriculture and Livestock. We know agriculture and livestock is the backbone of this country. If we invest in agriculture, if we invest in livestock, I'm sure this country will be in a better place today. We will see our youth employed. We will see more revenues coming back. We will see more food on our table and even lean meat on our table. But unfortunately, the government and this House are not prioritizing this sector. And this sector has been neglected completely. Nothing is going on. It was left only for the devolved county government to do agriculture, which even the resources they have might not be enough. Mr. Speaker, it is high time this House to prioritize agriculture and livestock over any other department in this country. If we want to employ our youth, if we want our people to be healthy, if we want our people to get food, if we want our people to progress. But so long we are treating agriculture and livestock like a secondary issue, then we are not going nowhere. Mr. Speaker, we budget for projects. But when we budget, there is always a delay in exchequer that affects the execution of certain projects in all departments. This clearly hinders the development of this country. I want to speak to the Treasury Department headed by our brother CS Honorable Mbadi to fast track the disbursement of all the projects that have been allocated money to, so that timely execution of programs are done. Otherwise, we will continue budgeting, rebudgeting, bringing another supplementary over another supplementary, and piling up the pending bills in this country. Mr. Speaker, I am happy today to see a new budget chair in this parliament. The first one was from Mount Kenya. This one is from Nyanza. And I expect this budget chairman to be rotational, Mr. Speaker, so that the budget chair has the prerogative power to allocate billions of money into his constituency or his county. To cure that kind of mismanagement, to cure that kind of injustice, to cure that kind of inequality, I suggest and propose that the chair committees should be rotational and each region should be given a chance to serve in that docket, so that we feel if we are part and parcel of this country. Mr. Speaker, I come from northern Kenya and the Asal areas. If you see, it is the only first time I can see a budget that has at least some considerations in northern Kenya, thanks to the broad-based government, which I believe has brought the inclusivity and the fairness in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to finalize my thoughts and to conclude my debate, I want the next budget committee to kindly consider each region. I don't know how budgets are done in this committee. I am part of parliament. I am a member of parliament. I know how it is done, but it is not done the way it is required to be done. Nobody is following the law. If you see the Department of Water, you will not find one project from my constituency, one project in my constituency. Equally, go to energy, see somewhere else. How do you expect me to run up and down to each and every department, to see each and every committee to request for projects? I have written over 55 letters to both the committees and the departments to include projects in my constituency. But it becomes, you will see, when you are told we will do, and the budget is brought in front of this house, you will not find one even single project. Anybody who can honor his word. How do we cure this, Mr. Speaker? We, as members of parliament, we are the ones who are supposed to appropriate budget. But what are we doing it? Are we doing it the right way? So with those few remarks, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
I don't appear to see Honorable Tom Odege in the House. The Honorable Dr. James Nikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For the avoidance of doubt, I go with the list of requests except for exceptional cases.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the second supplementary budget estimate for this financial year. And Mr. Speaker, I do so because it does address or attempts to address major issues in the health sector that are of great concern to me. Mr. Speaker, I do appreciate that all our 6 referral hospitals have actually gotten some increased allocation. But if you look at it, all of them, they are actually addressing human resource, which you know is a big issue in this country. Mr. Speaker, I also noticed that 1.3 billion has actually been given addressing the issue of interns. This is a problem we have every year. Even this year we have had a strike, and the issue of the payment of interns, at least this will go a long way in trying to solve it. But Mr. Speaker, the real issue in the case of interns is actually poor regulation of the training, particularly of the medical doctors. There's a conflict in law between the Medical Practitioner and Dentist Council and the University Act under the Commission for University Education. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you in this country now, nobody has the data on how many medical students are being trained. Before, this was actually under the purview of the Medical Practitioner Dentist Council, but with the new University Act and the power that was given to the Commission of University Education, that has actually stopped. And nobody is even looking at the programs that the way they are being trained. We just meet the problems when we come to internship. So it's not just a matter of numbers, it's also a matter of quality. And that's something we actually need to address. The honorable member who is the chair of the health education, we have actually looked at this and we'll need to address it so that we must have a system of knowing how many people are being trained, how many doctors are being trained, how many nurses are being trained, so that we actually plan how they are deployed, particularly at internship. We have the issue of universal health care workers that were on a contract. Again, this has not been addressed, but it is an issue with us. We are talking about 8,000 health workers. So there's something that we'll need to issue. So the fact that this supplementary budget has looked at human resource and put 1.3 billion is actually something we can appreciate. The other issue is the issue of KEMSA. Without supplies, without drugs in health facilities, it does not matter what you do to people. If they don't get the drugs, they go to buy them. They don't feel
like actually they've been cared for. And we have given about 1.5 billion, and we are saying to recapitalize KEMSA. I have an issue with this, and this is an issue we'll need to address. Because KEMSA is owed about 3 billion by actually the government, the counties, and even the national government, the Ministry of Health. Together they owe KEMSA 3 billion. Now, if you are giving them 1.5 billion to recapitalize them so that they can buy drugs that the counties can get from them, then we are actually killing the whole principle of KEMSA, where it was to be financed once, and now it buys drugs and it sells to the counties and other needs. So we'll then actually be every year just giving KEMSA money to buy drugs and distribute, because the principle that the counties buy must actually be adhered to. And we only do that if the debts are paid. So that's something we need to look at. It's extremely important. Mr. Speaker, it has also addressed the issue of SHA. You know, people say, and very many people say, SHA is not working. And some people, not many, say SHA is working. Do you know both are right? Both are right, because when we register people in SHA now, it is different from when we registered people in NHIF before. Because that time only people who had paid the premium were registered, and therefore they were all entitled to care. And they got the care, even if it was not done properly. But now, when we register people into SHA, there are two registrations. There's a registration, general registration, that everybody gets. And that is because we have in SHA three funds: SHIF, which is similar to NHIF, and Primary Health Care Fund, and Critical and Emergency Care Fund, both of which are supposed to come from the exchequer, from the treasury. Therefore, registering everybody and saying you are entitled to care is also reasonable. But the Primary Health Care Fund, for example, only provides care for level 2 to level 2 and 3. But I don't think this information is there. It's there out in the public. So that is why we have 20 million people have registered in SHA. So all those 20 million people are actually entitled to services at level 2 and 3 because that is being paid for by the government. But only 4 million have paid the premium, which is for a social health insurance fund. So when one of those 4 get the service, he'll say SHA is working. But the other one,
freeze the time for Honorable Nyikal. What is out of order?
Chair, although I don't want to interfere with, because he's giving a lot of information, apart from saying SHA is working and we know it's not working. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm requesting, if you can allow...
What is out of order?
SHA is not working and they say it's working. And I wanted to request...
That's a point of...
information, point of information.
No, he has not asked you of information.
But
and I doubt Honorable Nyikal would seek medical information from you.
Yeah.
Take back your seat.
Chair, I think
Honorable Nyikal, the point you are making is very important.
It's very important, and actually, I think if I get what he's trying to say,
I froze your time. I want you to break it down because we are also communicating to the public these issues.
Yeah. So what we break it down is that if you register generally, all of you are entitled to the primary care fund, which is offered in level 2 and 3. So you should all get it. But what is happening, and why I like this budget, is that is what now we have put some money on, which is 3 billion for primary care fund and 3 billion for critical care and emergency fund. So we expect that there will be improvement in that so that people will get that. Now, the registration and paying the premium is where the problem is, because very few people have paid the premium And so they expect that when they get admission, they'll get free care because they've been registered in SHA. And then they are not really entitled because they have not paid the premium. So 20 million people, or let me say 16 million people, are more likely to complain, while only 4 million people are likely to be satisfied. In general, that comes out as many people are not satisfied. So that is what I think you need to address. If you address that, and I like it, when we start putting money there, if we start putting money there, then obviously this is something that is going to improve the performance of CHAM.
Are you standing on a point of order or point of information?
Of information.
Yeah, inform Dr. Nyikal.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I'm so sure that the Honorable Nyikal, Dr. Nyikal, would like to be informed by myself because tomorrow he's likely, I think he's going to be the Chair Health, something that he has looked forward to for so many years. But Honorable Speaker, I wanted to inform you that the Honorable Member for Kaiti was saying that Honorable Nyikal is speaking for a long time.
Are you informing me?
Yeah, I'm informing Honorable Nyikal.
Yes.
And he has already agreed that I inform him that the Honorable Member for Kaiti was saying that the Honorable Nyikal is speaking for long because he's going to be the chair tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I believe that is true. That is why he wants to tell you everything that he knew before he came to the House, everything he has known for the last 15 years, no, 13 years, and what he's going to be doing in the next 2 years. So I think the Honorable Nyikal is duly informed. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Nyikal, you now notice the danger of allowing information.
Yeah,
Well,
is there anything wrong with campaigning? We all do it. So, but actually, what my real point was trying to say, why is it in this program, there are people who are very satisfied, and in the same program, there are people who are not, because of the two components. And if tomorrow comes out as everybody suggesting, then obviously I'll have to address the challenge that I'm putting before the House. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also want to bring to our attention again that as we end this, there was a suggestion that we should control how Article 223 is used. I think Article 223 is important, but how it is used, we can actually look into that. Because even now, I can see we are going to use it. We have a problem which has arisen from the executive order by the US President on foreign aid. And even today, we actually can tell you there's $5 billion that is needed urgently, which we could have put in this supplementary, but it's not there. The only option maybe then will be Article 223. So I think it is something we can use. If we use it properly, it's okay. But the suggestion that we find ways that we can look at it before the money is used is a good suggestion. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support.
The Honorable Mutunga will be followed by Honorable David Mboni and Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Wamboka, I can't even notice you on the screen. Absent the card, you will not speak. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to also contribute to this debate, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the adoption of the report by the Liaison Committee on the Supplementary 2, 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, let me say that right from the outset, it was a great opportunity for the Chairman's Committee to actually do the budget for this country. And this opportunity gave us, it was an eye-opener because we were able to inform each other what happens in every department. Honorable Speaker, the learning experience was immense, and we did this budget with a lot of interest to get to know exactly what happens in every sector in this particular country. Honorable Speaker, we also had interactions which were really important, interactions with the Auditor General, interactions with the Control on Budget, interactions with the Treasury, the Parliamentary Service Commission, which are key in informing the Chairman exactly what happens in the budget-making process. Honorable Speaker, the intricacies of the budget are key and notable that as members of this House, we need to understand. And if it were possible to make the committee membership rotational, Honorable Speaker, I think it would be a learning experience for everyone. And I believe, Honorable Speaker, listening to this House today, the broad-based government is actually working. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I think it is working. Honorable Speaker, utilization of Article 223 has been an abomination in this House. It has been condemned every time. And this time around, everyone is speaking to the wisdom of the utilization of Article 223 in running government matters that are of emergency nature, and also those that are coming up after the budget has been adopted. Honorable Speaker, a revision of the budget itself, the adjustments that have been made are minimal. And the principle was that we need to make almost zero adjustments. And this is the reason why we have not experienced huge changes. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the State Department, the Ministry of Agriculture, I wanted to raise a point of information, but decided not to interrupt my fellow chair of security. Honorable Speaker, Agriculture lost 8.8 billion in terms of rationalization. And agriculture gained around 7.5 billion. So at the net loss was close to 2.3 billion. Honorable Speaker, this particular process this year created an opportunity for the regularization of the money that has been spent under 223, and the notable issues, Honorable Speaker, especially in the agricultural sector, are such that the sector is not commensurately funded in this country with its importance, in view of its importance. Honorable Speaker, protect me from the Honorable Wamboka, who is actually standing and not Wamboka, the Honorable member
Chair
who is standing.
Wamboka. And the Honorable Mboko, there is a distinction. Proceed, Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to highlight a few issues that are notable in the agriculture sector. The first one is the fact that the country now is focusing on revisiting the oil seed industry. We have been importing oil and edible oil from outside this country for a very long time. We have seen efforts in this particular revised estimate, or rather the supplementary budget, to try and put in energy into producing more of the seeds and distributing to the farmers and trying to encourage the production of oilseeds. Honorable Speaker, this is an initiative that is likely to support more than 2 million Kenyans who have been denied the opportunity for a very long time thanks to the importation that we reverted to. Honorable Speaker, during this particular revision, we also have noted that in some areas, we are trying to look at fertilizer as a subsidy, and also we are bringing in the issue of the seeds and seedlings. Honorable Speaker, 3 things that must be done for us to improve on production and even productivity is good seed. Even if you give a bad seed or some poor seed, a lot of fertilizer. Even if you plant it in the midst of fertilizer, you may not get high yield. So the hybrid vigor or the potential of the seed is very key in this particular respect. So we need good seed. We need the soil health improved through fertilizer and manuring and other that improve on the texture, and also we need water. Honorable Speaker, I also saw some initiatives that increase the irrigation area in this particular country and the intensity of irrigation. The investments in mega dams and investments in other irrigation infrastructure will help this country a great deal to open up more land to farming. There is a lot of land in Kenya. We have very good soils across the country, but we do not have water. Lack of water is one of the problems that we need to address. And this particular revision, or rather the estimates, seem to be speaking to in that particular direction. Generally, Honorable Speaker, listening to every member of the departmental committee speaking, I discovered what agriculture sector suffers. Agriculture sector suffers what we call the choice of the logic. The choice of the logic in this case, Honorable Speaker, is that every sector head or every chairman of the sector supports their sector to make sure that they get more money. There is not a single sector that I thought or I heard them saying that they may have a little money to share with any other sector. On the other hand, Honourable Speaker, we are talking about historical formation, the historical backgrounding of these sectors. They came from some source and they have developed over time. As they develop, they also develop the needs. So every member spoke to the needs in that particular sector. So, Honourable Speaker, in the retrospect, we need to be asking ourselves as Kenyans, should we be responding to the logic of choice, or should we change the choice of should we have the choice of the logic? In this particular case, Honourable Speaker, we need to ask ourselves, when we look at all sectors as equal, we need to be asking ourselves, where do we have the greatest potential to grow this country? Where do we have the greatest potential to provide the 3 basic needs of human beings? And the first one is food. Honourable Speaker, if one is naked and well-fed, they can still survive under any environment. But unfortunately, we are not responding to this particular important sector. This sector is the one that has the potential to open up industrialization for this country. Industrial revolution has got to do with availability of raw materials. This is the sector where the greatest population is anchored. This is the sector where we have the potential to even export outside this country. Some of the things we realized as we looked through, took a closer look at the sectoral provisions on our speaker, we realized that even the gatekeeper institutions are not fully supported. So we cannot fail to support an institution that basically authorizes export for Kenya or enables export for Kenya, and I say that we are doing a good thing. Even the germ plasm production institution, or institutions that produce genetic material in this country, they are not seriously or supported. And in this case, Honourable Speaker, we have a problem because we are not generating technologies and innovations that are commensurate to the age, that are commensurate to the stage, that are commensurate to the demand of this country. We need better seed in every variety. We need better animal breeds in every breed of animal that you look at, and we need to invest in those sectors. Once we invest in those sectors, because we are living at an age where we only have about 16% of Kenya, which is arable, therefore it is the age and stage of intensification. Therefore, we need to have the best of breeds so that we can improve on the productivity per unit, and that way we will be able to organize our agriculture in a more productive manner. Therefore, Honourable Speaker, we need to revisit the choice of the logic. That logic of saying that we have sectors that are supposed to be doing this and that, we need to go deeper. We need to have a national conversation on the Kenya we need, the institution or the sectors that will support the economy of this country. And unless we do that, I think we are making the wrong choices. We are putting money in the wrong areas because our priorities are very, very important. Honourable Speaker, one thing that African leadership recognized is that agriculture is not supported. And if I may pause to look even at what happens at the county level. Honourable Speaker, we send money to the counties. The other day we had an opportunity to look at what happens at the county. Some of them fund up to 10%, 8%, 7% of the money they get, they put it in agriculture. Unfortunately, if you follow closely to find out exactly what they do with this money, you realize that, Honourable Speaker, this money goes to pay salaries and personnel emoluments. It does not really go to do development work. So we have delegated our sector. Farmers are suffering because they do not have sufficient knowledge. The technologies, innovations that are coming up today are not reaching the farmers. So we do not have the elaborate extension system that we used to have in the past because investments are not good. When the African leaders realized this, way back in 1990s, they came up with the Maputo Declaration in 2003 that we should fund agriculture to the tune of 10%. Kenya has never achieved 4%. The best Kenya has done, I think, is 3.8%, 3.6%. Honourable Speaker, this has been revised over time. 10 years later, in Malabo, they even came up with specific measurable indicators to show how countries are progressing. Every 2 years, there's a biennial review. And Kenya is rated very poorly in terms of these biennial reviews. Everybody in this country in a good position knows that Kenya does not do well in terms of the performance of agriculture. The reason why the African leadership decided to go this direction is to try and focus or arouse the consciousness of the leadership of Africa to focus on a sector that is likely to support and help people to get out of poverty. Honourable Speaker, agriculture has got 2.5 times potential to get people out of poverty than any other sector that we may say is best performing. So, Honourable Speaker, the situation is in some of the cases, was threatening closure of some institutions before we get to the actual budgeting, and the committee and to look at some of these issues and articulate them to the liaison committee so that the liaison committee takes it, as it were. Madam Speaker, let me very briefly look at the recurrent versus development. What you have noticed and witnessed through this particular process is that in this country, we normally regularize money for recurrent into, money for development into recurrent. There has been some resistance and some policy direction that we should not be transferring money from recurrent, from development to recurrent. But the general trend and the general tendency and the practice is that we actually move money from development to recurrent. The problem is that recurrent expenditure, especially has to do with personnel, emolument, and the other comfort-related issues, Honourable Speaker, end up to waste. And we as a country need to focus on that area and see how do we reduce the resources that are going into recurrent and focus a lot more into development. Honourable Speaker, if you look at also what we borrow as a country, most of the time we borrow for development. And the borrowing space is limited in the sense that we must not exceed 5% of the GDP. That being the case, the capping is very clear, and therefore as a country, we may suffer because we may not be moving in the right direction. So we need to intensify our revenue collection. We need to come up with more innovative ways of raising money. We need to focus a lot more on the sectors that are more productive in this country so that we'll be able to generate the revenue that we need and therefore support the many activities that we have as a country. Honourable Speaker, the final issue I want to mention is to do with the entire budgetary spread across the country. I do not think, and I've heard some members in this House saying there is discrimination. Honourable Speaker, if you look at the detailed outlay of activities across the country, Kenya is looked at as a unit. We may have specific pockets where probably we may not have done certain things, but the country is looked at generally. And that is why, Honourable Speaker, I believe the orientation of the country at the moment, in view of the partnership that is happening and in view of what is happening,
I'd said Honorable David Mboni will be followed by Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say on the onset, I'm supporting Supplementary Budget Estimate 2 because they are addressing balance shortfall in critical sectors in the economy, like agriculture, education, and security. Mr. Speaker, we all agree that this country has been facing financial management challenges. Balancing of revenues and expenditure has been a challenge. Between 2002 to 2013, during President Kibaki's regime, our budget deficit used to be 5%. Now it has moved to around 20% of our budget. This one has resulted to high borrowing and high public debt servicing, which has really crippled the expenditure on development activity in this country. Mr. Speaker, the other day, the CS Bandy, he agreed that the revenue projections have been very poor in this country. As we speak, from July to December 2004, we had a shortfall of revenue of 110 billion shillings. And I would say, because most of us, we blame KRA, revenue collection system. But there are also other factors which has resulted to poor projections. One of them being outdated revenue projection model. Mr. Speaker, when I was working in Treasury, they can be used currently because of the changing economic times. And the other time we are talking with a PS Treasury, they are saying there's a need to update this model. And I think they were asking for money to be able to update it. The other thing is poor statistics in the country. Mr. Speaker, there is what we call a program called East African Statistics Program for Results. This is a World Bank funded project which is being implemented in all East African countries. As we speak, Kenya is ranking behind because the Bureau of Statistics have been asking for some money, $1 billion shillings, and it was only in this budget where we managed to allocate them $1 billion shillings. World Bank advanced them 2.3 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, when you have poor statistics, you are expected to get poor planning in the country. If you have poor statistics, even if that model is updated, but the statistics are poor, then garbage in, garbage out. So is there a need seriously to fund statistics in this country? Mr. Speaker, a lot of members have talked about Article 223. And by December, the request for Article 223, they were 88 billion. Treasury had approved 40 billion. Out of this 40 billion, 8 billion was going to roads. I really don't know the 8 billion were going to roads, which roads? And we asked for that list so that we can know which roads are emerging. Is it emergency to fund those roads? Mr. Speaker, it's high time we look at Article 223. Some of the activities which are being funded under Article 223. We are looking at some of the activities, paying salaries, surfacing lifts, and a lot of recurrent expenditures. I don't think Article 223 was made to be spent on recurrent expenditure. So it's high time. And one honorable member was saying that Mbadi, he said that when he becomes CS Treasury, he's going to avoid the use of Article 223. I don't think really it can be avoided. But some of the activities which are being funded by Article 223, like salaries, money to recruit new staff in some NDAs, those ones can be avoided. Because immediately you take money and use it under Article 223. Now you are already affecting, already budgeted, money budgeted. So you're also creating another deficit of another deficit. At the end of the day, we are going to have a deficit of 1 trillion shillings, resulting to borrowing and high debt servicing. So these are something which we need to avoid. Mr. Speaker, expenditure, the mixture of expenditure, development, and recurrent. The recommended expenditure on development is 30%. But this one has been going down. Look at development expenditure in counties. I think most of them have even gone to 10%. And this one affects development. It affects economic growth. Because if you are not investing in development projects, then you don't expect growth. So it's high time we increase development expenditures so that we can realize economic growth. Mr. Speaker, it's high time also we look at the wastage. Mr. Speaker, before I joined Parliament, I was a consultant, actually international consultant. And we did a study on LAPSET. And LAPSET projects, all implemented, they were supposed to contribute 2 percentage points to GDP. At the current GDP of, nominal GDP of 15 trillion, that's around 300 billion shillings to the GDP, creating employment, incomes, reducing poverty, or that kind of thing. But now when you look at our budget, you never see anything be put in some of these projects. Mr. Speaker, Lamport is lying idle. It's Yolo Port. I don't know how many planes are using that airport. And that airport was completed in 2016. That is like 10 years ago. That's the money we have put there in the airport. That's the money we have put in Lamport. But in terms of returns, there's almost zero returns. And we are paying loans for them, Mr. Speaker. I think it's high time we think about some of these projects and how we can complete them to generate income to this country. Mr. Speaker, there's something shocking. There's a data recovery center in Naivasha. I think last year, but one, we went there with our chairman, Honorable Kuria, and congratulations for being retained as a chair of finance, my friend. That center was supposed to cost 1 billion shillings, around 1 billion shillings. There were some changes we had done. Some things happened. There was a dispute between the contractor and the government. The contractor went to court. And he was awarded 5.2 billion. The project up to now is not even complete. It's not even handily 60% complete. But this person is getting 5.2 billion shillings for nothing. That is a wastage, Mr. Speaker. So I think it's high time we look at this wastage.
The Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity to contribute to this very important motion on the supplementary budget estimates. But Honorable Speaker, before I begin my contribution, I'd just like to single out and congratulate my brother, the Honorable Sam Atandi in absentia, for being elected as the Chair of Budget. Honorable Atandi and I come from way back. We were first employed in the bank same day. So from one chair to another, I congratulate my brother because, and the reason why I'm singling him out as well is because we are discussing budget, and this is very important. And I just want to express my confidence in his leadership and the entire budget committee. And as for us who are new elected as chairs, we will give them the full support that they require. Honorable Chair, I've looked at the budget estimates that we have received. And for me, some of the things that I just want to express as concern right from the onset is the fact that we need to be very cognizant of fair distribution of resources in this country. Because, Honorable Chair, I come from the great county of Nyamira. The great county of Nyamira right now has 55% estimated electricity coverage. We have very few roads that are tarmacked in that particular county. And so for me, I want to be very keen to ensure that from this particular budget and the estimates for 2025-2026, that there's fair distribution to ensure equality of resource allocation across the whole country so that all of us benefit and all of us feel like we are part of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, having said that, I also want to talk about, and especially the county revenue allocation that we discussed yesterday, because it's very key and significant to this. And again, being very biased to single out Nyamira County, because I did note that there was indication of money allocated for the industrial park. There was money allocated for value chain, especially in agriculture. Two very important things for us in terms of development. Because yes, we are a very rich agricultural area, but also without value chain addition to the produce that we have, then we will not be able to do as much as we really want to do. The industrial park, which is situated in my home constituency of West Mogirango, For the longest time, we've just been passing that road and looking at its bareness. It's just collecting water there. It's been fenced, but it's doing nothing. So I really hope that finally, now that there's a specific allocation of an estimate of 110 million towards that particular project, that it's going to actually take off. Honorable Speaker, the other thing that I really wanted to comment on in terms of especially this supplementary budget is the issue of pending bills, because we have a lot of issues emanating from the county governments, national government, but especially county government in terms of pending bills. And Honorable Speaker, as one other honorable member did mention, when we do not have money circulating within the counties, we are not helping the counties. And the only way we can ensure that there's progress, there's development, there's growth within the county space, that people are able to have purchasing power, is if we actually pay the people back there. Honorable Speaker, the other day through the Finance Committee, we passed a very important bill that was speaking about ensuring that procurement benefits and procurement resources and resources are actually given first to the counties, especially on county level, before they're given to anyone else outside the county. But Honorable Speaker, even when we are pursuing that and ensuring that our county people actually get the first line of investment, if we do not pay the bills, if we do not pay them for the services that they've rendered, then in essence, we are not doing anything. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I really hope that this is one of the things that is going to be really considered in this supplementary estimate, and it's going to take first priority. And Honorable Speaker, also just looking at the timelines, because we are in the month of March, we have 3 months, if not less, of ensuring that these monies are actually utilized within the different spaces, both national and county government. And if this is not done quickly and within the specific timelines, then it's not going to help anyone. Honorable Speaker, we've had instances of where we've seen county governments return monies back to national government because of lack of utilization within the specified time. So I really hope that this time we will ensure that this is done within good time. But also, back to the leadership, especially of county governments, is that they will be prudent enough to ensure that they actually ensure that the utilization of this is done in good time. Honorable Speaker, having said that, still though, it's the issue of monitoring and evaluation and checking on proper utilization of funds, which, Honorable Speaker, in my view, I don't think we do a very good job of that. We have the specific bodies that are charged with all this monitoring and evaluation, but still, we still have issues of where resource allocation is not being utilized prudently. And Honorable Speaker, this is something that we really, really need as a House to take that into consideration. I don't understand, for example, Honorable Speaker, why we don't name and shame counties that are not utilizing resources properly. Why we do not name and shame, even in the space of national government, where resource allocation is not properly utilized. Because that is one of the purposes of this particular House and the Senate as well. We really need to ensure that the resources that are actually contributed and generated from the taxes that Kenyans pay, that they're going to good, for good purpose. Honorable Speaker, another thing that I really want to single out is the issue of resource allocation, especially where issues related to affirmative action are concerned. Issues related to women, issues related to girls. Honorable Speaker, the women representatives have been complaining for the longest time that resource allocation, especially to things like sanitary pads, is not being done in an adequate and regular manner. It's not being done on time. And Honorable Speaker, sanitary pads is a basic need for a young girl in this country. And some of these things, Honorable Speaker, should actually take precedence in terms of resource allocation and ensuring that they are well financed. Honorable Speaker, when you look at ICT, which is my previous committee, there has been resource allocation for youth-based training activities, especially in the ICT space, because, Honorable Speaker, right now we are in a world where our young people are extremely IT IT and technologically savvy, and they really need to be trained in that particular space. And I've seen there's allocation for youth development. We have the Ajira, we have the presidential digital program that are very, very good programs that we need to allocate. Honorable Speaker, I've also seen, and not to anticipate debate, but I've seen in the 2025-2026 estimates, we have talked about allocation for resources on communication and how the services that are provided by SHA are going to be properly communicated and properly utilized within our spaces. Honorable Speaker, that is the other one thing that I really want to encourage us to all ensure that this is properly done and that those resources go in the right direction. Because, Honorable Speaker, if we have decided that SHA is here with us, that this is the new norm in our health space, then we must ensure that there's proper communication, there's proper feedback channeling from the Mwananchi who are utilizing this back to the government and the other way around, if this is going to work. And Honorable Speaker, having said that, I also want to speak about the issue of the housing levy, because that is another matter that is still a thorn in terms of discussion with the people of this country. But Honorable Speaker, in anything that we do, if there's no proper communication, if there's no proper channel of ensuring that you're telling Mwananchi how these things are being done, then you will not be able to address it appropriately. Honorable Speaker, I have seen that we do have what we call government delivery. But that government delivery channel needs to be expanded to the local Mwananchi. It needs to be utilized, and it needs to go even to the local radio stations, so that even my grandmother back there in Wogichora Ward in Nyamira is able to understand that this is actually beneficial to them. So, Honorable Speaker, having said that and with all the comments, yes, I do support the supplementary budget.
Joseph Emate will be followed by the Honorable Robert Basil.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know today,
Out members, we are going up to 9 o'clock today, and we barely have some 6 of us remaining. We are all going to speak up to 9 o'clock.
Honorable Speaker, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to Supplementary Budget 2. Honorable Speaker, today we've indulged ourselves into discussing the budget policy statement, and we are also now into the Supplementary Budget 2 for financial year 2024-2025. Honorable Speaker, a budget is a political tool, and all the time when we discuss about the budget, it is a time when we are able to discuss a roadmap or the future of our country. And when we speak about the budget, Honorable Speaker, we also talk about equity. And I thank our President for being a champion of the word equity. And this budget, Supplementary Budget 2, Honorable Speaker, must be able to tell us how the word equity in distribution of our resources is going to be realized, Honorable Speaker. And as a result, Honorable Speaker, those who talked about equity, that he who comes to equity must come to equity with clean hands, are part of those people who are in the courts of fairness, that when we are distributing our resources, we must look at it from the point of being and remaining fair in all aspects, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to make some contributions or comments on environment, climate change, and forestry in this country, Honorable Speaker. I have looked at the supplementary budget, and environment has been allocated 6.4 billion Kenya shillings, and forestry has been awarded or allocated 16.3 billion Kenya shillings. Honorable Speaker,
it is a time for us as a country to discuss issues on climate change, especially carbon credit and resource mobilization, Honorable Speaker. I am very particular on what we are able to receive on carbon credit. And therefore, how is our country prepared for carbon markets, Honorable Speaker? Still on the same sphere, Honorable Speaker, we need to discuss about our legal framework on the same. How will we be able to roll out? Do we have the right regulations to speak to carbon credit? Because, Honorable Speaker, for me, we have to discuss our GDP, even as we provide this budget. And therefore, how much will we be able to discuss as a contribution from the carbon bonds, or what they call the green bonds, Honorable Speaker? And therefore, this ministry or State Department on Environment, Climate Change must be able to let us know how much are we going to venture into the carbon credit markets. And also, this State Department on Forestry should also be able to explain to us how much are we getting from forestry in terms of the GDP. It is high time, because this is a new venture, that as we have been able to live moratorium on logging of our trees or forests, Honorable Speaker, we must be able to understand how much is this, or how much are we receiving, and how much is it going to measure or to contribute to our GDP, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, the aid in appropriation must be directly explained for us to understand all that we are receiving under this as part of our basket in terms of revenue. Honorable Speaker, allow me to speak to the blue economy. Blue economy and fisheries, Honorable Speaker, has been allocated 6.6 billion. Fisheries alone is receiving 6 billion. Honorable Speaker, I want to